Cyberpunk. Can I install game mods? Chapter 91 Performance Testing. Bringing Marvin to the testing area, Luauchi planned to first test Marvin's physical strength. Luauchi took out a handgun and aimed it at Marvin. But this scene scared Marvin, who quickly raised his hands to block in front of the muzzle. Mr. L, please don't do this. Look at you, so timid. Don't worry, these things can't hurt you. I'm just testing how resistant to hits you are. Alright. Seeing Marvin's scared look, Luauchi also shook his head helplessly. This guy had just gained self-awareness and was like a child, not knowing his own abilities. Bang, bang, bang. After a few shots landed on Marvin's body, not even a single scratch was left. And when Marvin saw that these bullets couldn't hurt him, he gradually became excited. It proved that the body crafted from vibranium had terrifyingly high hardness. Luauchi tried attacking Marvin with more weapons, but Marvin remained completely unharmed. After testing physical strength, Luauchi then had Marvin test his own power. The test results were also within Luauchi's expectations. Under the influence of vibranium, besides becoming more resistant to hits, his body could withstand greater energy release, making his power much stronger, several times higher than before. The drawback was that energy consumption was fast when operating at full performance. But fortunately, the characteristic of vibranium absorbing kinetic energy allowed him to recover a portion of his own energy, so the net effect didn't significantly impact endurance. Looking at the power testing machine that he had punched until it went off the charts and was directly scrapped, Marvin danced with excitement. You're right, L. This guy can indeed become a great weapon on the battlefield. Seeing such test results, Lao Wei also didn't hold back his praise. Oh, thank you for the compliment, Mr. Victor. Luauchi, standing by, saw that Marvin seemed very happy with his performance, showing a slight smile, and said, Marvin, don't get too happy too soon, you still have one test left. After saying this, Luauchi then replied to Lao Wei's words. The hardware performance is indeed good. With the addition of vibranium, he can become a powerful fighting force. But there are also significant flaws. You mean, network defense capability? Lao Wei instantly understood Luauchi's meaning. Exactly. Lysandra. Under Marvin's confused expression, Luauchi summoned Lysandra. Looking at the robotic projection in front of him, Marvin realized this was also a mechanical life like himself. This was the first time he had encountered a fellow being since his birth. Marvin seemed a bit excited, and Luauchi also raised an eyebrow. One should know that Lysandra usually rarely appeared in projection form. It seemed she had some interest in Marvin, or perhaps she wanted to give Marvin a show of strength. Luauchi didn't know which. And just as Marvin was still immersed in the joy of meeting a fellow being and hadn't reacted yet, Lysandra suddenly made her move. In an instant, Marvin, who had been dancing, seemed to be frozen in place. This was the last test Marvin had to undergo, a beating from Lysandra. As a newly born mechanical life, Marvin's immature system defense was no different from paper in Lysandra's eyes. Although saying this might be a bit unreasonable, even the strongest system defense probably couldn't withstand Lysandra's intrusion. Even top-tier robots like Iron Man could be constrained by Lysandra. Comparing her to the newly born Marvin was truly a bit of bullying. Even if, due to system rules, Lysandra didn't have the ability to modify Marvin's underlying code to make him betray, etc., making him paralyzed or forcing a shutdown and restart could be said to be too simple. At this moment, in cyberspace, Marvin was trembling. As he looked at the woman in front of him. Beautiful Miss Lysandra, if I have angered you unknowingly, I am very sorry. Could you please let me go? This feeling of being unable to control my body is really not very pleasant. Marvin was extremely scared at this moment. He didn't expect that the first time he met a fellow being, he would be directly pressed to the ground and beaten, without any ability to resist. It seemed this fellow being was not easy to get along with. And seeing Marvin's appearance, Lysandra seemed a bit disappointed. She didn't say anything and withdrew from cyberspace. As Lysandra lifted her control over Marvin, Marvin finally regained control of his body. How was it, Lysandra? Give me your evaluation. Luauchi looked at Lysandra's holographic projection nearby and asked with some curiosity. And Lysandra's evaluation was very simple, she had no intention of sparing Marvin's feelings. Too weak. Marvin, who had just regained his ability to move, heard Lysandra evaluate him like this, lowered his head sadly, and the expression on his chest turned to frustration. But what Marvin didn't expect was that Lysandra immediately made another sharp comment. Not only is the network defense capability poor, but the personality is also too childish. At this, Marvin's expression directly changed from frustration to crying. Marvin had been very happy when he first saw Lysandra. In the world of robots, Lysandra could be considered a great beauty. As a result, he didn't expect that such a beautiful woman would beat him up without saying a word, and on top of that, call him a noob and say he was childish. No normal person could withstand this blow. Seeing such a scene, Luauchi suppressed his smile and was just about to comfort Marvin. After all, as a newly born mechanical life, not yet an AI type, it was normal not to be able to beat Lysandra. Luauchi had never expected these robots to have strong network defense capabilities. In the end, they would all have to connect to Lysandra's network and let Lysandra help them with network defense. But what Luauchi didn't expect was that Marvin's expression, which had been frustration, suddenly changed, turning into a determined look. Miss Lysandra, I know I am very weak, but I will work hard. At this moment, Marvin seemed to have made some kind of resolve. Mechanical life is also life, and Marvin certainly didn't want to be looked down upon. But the aloof Lysandra seemed not to want to bother with the determined Marvin. She disappeared without saying anything. It was then that Luauchi spoke. It's okay, Marvin. You still have a lot to learn. Currently, Marvin had just been born. Luauchi hadn't trained him yet, nor had he performed software upgrades. Although in terms of network defense, Marvin probably had no chance of getting back at Lysandra. But in other areas, he still had a lot of room for improvement. After finishing the tests, Luauchi also began to work on training Marvin's skills. And the training process was quite simple. Connect the desired training simulation program to his terminal and let him simulate and learn on his own. Chapter 92 Industrial Park. Luauchi connected Marvin to the terminal and uploaded the basic combat training program. These programs originated from the system's expansion and were not expensive, and there was a vast variety of programs. There were all kinds of programs, including combat, technical, and lifestyle. Calling it training, it was actually more like a software system upgrade package. Once the program finished running, the robot would possess the skills within the program: basic combat training, basic boxing training, basic pilot training, and so on. These were all courses Luauchi had carefully prepared for Marvin. As the program started, the originally active Marvin became quiet, and Luauchi also began his next plan. Marvin, this first-generation unit, was just an attempt by Luauchi. A robot army was the ultimate goal. Power Excitement Agent Factory. At this time, several buildings around the factory were emitting the noise of construction facilities. The massive construction team from the night group was constantly working. A huge wall was being built, surrounding several buildings, including the Power Excitement Agent Factory. As early as when Luauchi planned to produce the mechanical army, he had already started preparing to expand Ascension Technologies' factory. Using the initial Power Excitement Agent Factory as the base, other factory buildings in the surrounding area were all bought by Ascension Technology. And this area is about to be built into Ascension Technology Industrial Park. To mass-produce Marvin robots, the equipment in the laboratory alone is naturally not enough. In addition to the robots themselves, the demand for the equipment and weapons they carry is also extremely large. The production efficiency of the laboratory alone is far from sufficient. Factory mass production is a necessary step. Ascension Technologies' factory is located in Chungbei Industrial Zone. Although it is not the city center, the current Ascension Technology is considered a star enterprise in Night City, and there are naturally many people interested in it. Such a large-scale expansion could not escape the attention of those companies. Arasaka Tower, 33rd floor. V was looking at a report at his desk. Since passing Jenkins' test and being heavily cultivated by Jenkins, V has clearly shown a trend of becoming the second in command of the counterintelligence department. And the advanced soldier serum incident solidified this fact. Arasaka acquiring Ascension Technologies' advanced soldier serum was largely due to V's contribution as the person in charge. Jenkins, cultivating V as his confidant, also used this incident to increase V's influence in the counterintelligence department. Today, V is undoubtedly the second in command in the Arasaka counterintelligence department, but power often means pressure as well. V rubbed his temples to relieve his tired mind before continuing to work. Ascension Technology Factory Expansion, planning to build Ascension Technology Industrial Park. The news of Ascension Technology's factory expansion was unsurprisingly delivered to V. The importance of Ascension Technology to Arasaka goes without saying. As the source of the advanced soldier serum, Ascension Technology has always been a key focus of the counterintelligence department. So even though V considers Luauchi his friend, he has no ability to help him at this level. But what makes Arasaka uncomfortable is that Ascension Technology's internal counter-espionage measures are unexpectedly good, and no spies can reach their core level at all. So far, Arasaka has not been able to obtain useful classified information through espionage operations. Over time, Arasaka no longer focused too much attention on Ascension technology and gave up the idea of stealing Ascension technology's core secrets. Anyway, as long as he doesn't cause any trouble and provides Arasaka with advanced soldier serum on time, then Arasaka's goal is achieved. But now Ascension technology seems to have new moves, which also piqued V's interest. He pulled up another report file, which was intelligence from Yamamoto Daisho, an internal spy at Ascension Technology. Ascension Technology is currently preparing to hold a press conference, and the entire publicity department has already started working. The content of the press conference is related to the sale of soldier serum, and in addition, there seems to be an unknown product launch. Specific information about the product is unknown, but the keywords are mechanical and automated. This report is not long, and the information the spy could obtain was limited. V was aware of the soldier serum sale mentioned in it. Not long ago, Ascension Technology just completed Arasaka's advanced soldier serum order, and should now be planning to sell the low-end version of soldier serum externally. As for the other product, it might be the key to their expanded industrial park. But without more information, V could not react well, so he could only set aside this piece of information about Ascension Technology and turn to the next report. Open black lens bracket. Cyberpunk Combat Data Acquisition Plan. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The first generation product of the Cyberpunk project has been successfully produced and has undergone initial testing. Currently lacking support from actual combat data, the plan is to lure military technology forces to test the performance of the Cyberpunk. After the test is completed, the Arasaka rescue team will immediately move out to clean up the battlefield and recover the experimental product. Experimental subject: Captain Baffle. Experimental subject number NC 126978. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Handler Kate. Close black lens bracket. Looking at the mission file in front of him, V was a little surprised. Cyberpunk is an important experimental project for Arasaka at this stage, so V is naturally no stranger to it. But what surprised him was that the research and development of Cyberpunk had made such rapid and breakthrough progress, even reaching the stage of actual combat testing. It should be known that the Tanaka kidnapping case that occurred not long ago involved Cyberpunk. Although the case was not handled by V, he had also learned about the situation. Tanaka, as one of the main persons in charge of the Cyberpunk project, had a lot of experimental data for the Cyberpunk project, but he was kidnapped and his data was extracted. Although Arasaka eventually found Tanaka's body and recovered the experimental data from it, the significant data leak caused by this incident is still an undeniable fact. But even under the influence of this leak incident, the Cyberpunk project is still progressing smoothly. All of this may be attributed to the advanced soldier serum. Cyberpunk, as the name suggests, it is Arasaka's latest developed combat prosthetic suit, named Cyberpunk because of its massive size and ape-like appearance when worn. It is equipped with powerful hovercar suspension propulsion components and the most advanced gravity control unit, giving it the potential to be the ultimate killing machine on the battlefield. Arasaka believes that with the power of Cyberpunk, as long as it is put into the market, it can overwhelm military technology. But unfortunately, as a military-grade prosthetic suit, the powerful performance of Cyberpunk also dictates that it is not something ordinary people can control. Arasaka conducted a large number of experiments, but most of the experimental subjects lost their personality traits before the Cyberpunk was fully installed, becoming complete Cyberpunk. Even if a very small number of iron-blooded soldiers could persist until the installation was completed, they would uncontrollably become Cyberpunk within a few minutes. This has also caused the progress of the Cyberpunk project to remain stagnant. Chapter 93 Fatal Commission. But all of this changed a few months ago. The appearance of the advanced soldier serum changed everything. This serum, which can enhance the human body's resistance to cyberware, greatly advanced the project team's research and development of the Cyberpunk. As long as this serum is injected, the smooth installation of the Cyberpunk can basically be guaranteed. With the help of the advanced soldier serum, the research progress of the Cyberpunk has advanced by leaps and bounds. Facts have proven that Arasaka's decision to acquire the advanced soldier serum at a huge cost was very correct. Let's get back to this test plan. Using military technology to test the Cyberpunk's combat capabilities. This is clearly an open conspiracy. Military technology has always coveted Arasaka's Cyberpunk. As long as they reveal a little information about the Cyberpunk, they will definitely be eager to snatch it. Even if military technology knows this is a trap, they will still rush in without hesitation for the sake of the Cyberpunk. As for who will have the last laugh, That depends on how capable the cyberpunk is. V looked deeply at the name Kate written on the handler, and a meaningful smile appeared on his face. It seems she is very confident in the cyberpunk. Isn't she afraid that military technology will actually succeed? However, the cyberpunk fighting against military technology forces is indeed a good show. Kate, that is, the one with 3 dark red petals on her head. She used to be a big shot in the Arasaka counterintelligence department, and although she still is, she is now surpassed by V. As for whether this test mission will make her go further or fall into eternal damnation, that remains to be seen. Watson District. Afterlife Bar. Main's team were currently drinking in a booth. Since Luauchi injected Main with the advanced soldier serum, Main's physical condition has improved. Not only did he no longer show signs of cyberpunk, but his physical strength also became higher. And he rarely took Luoki's advice and did not continue to install more cyberware. But with the enhancement of the advanced soldier serum, it was already enough to raise his strength by a level. With the boost in strength, completing gigs naturally became easier. Under the turning of fate's gears, Pila was not shot in the head by the perverted Ludek man. Although Faraday still approached Main and asked him to steal Tanaka's data. But this time, Main was not affected by cyberpunk and lost control during the mission. Instead, he successfully completed the gig and obtained the data. Since then, Main's team, who completed this big job, gradually became a well-known mercenary team at the Afterlife Bar with their strength. In the booth, Main and Dorio sat together talking softly, while Pila and Falco leaned against each other, chatting and laughing, and Kiwi, the team's netrunner, was as silent as ever. But in addition to Main's team, Rebecca, with her twin pigtails, was also mixed among them. Although Rebecca has now left the team and fully joined the Ascension Technology faction, occasional drinking gatherings are still indispensable. After all, they have been teammates for many years, and they are also some of Rebecca's few friends in Night City. And just as they were happily drinking, a guy suddenly entered their field of vision. He was wearing a classic red suit and had white hair. The 3 eyes arranged on his right eye made it easy for those who knew him to recognize his identity. Despite being dressed like an elite, you could still see the cunning and mercenary nature of a Night City fixer on him. The person who came was the famous Night City fixer, Faraday. Faraday, you're here to see me, do you have a job? Seeing Faraday arrive, Main naturally guessed his purpose. These fixers coming to mercenaries are nothing more than having work to offer. So Main also chose to get straight to the point, put down his wine glass, and looked at him with interest. Seeing Main ask, Faraday didn't show much expression, but his eyes still revealed a condescending attitude, which made Main very uncomfortable. It's a big job, the biggest job you've ever seen in your life. Oh, what kind of job, bigger than kidnapping an Arasaka executive last time? Hearing Faraday's words, Main raised an eyebrow. Having a big job come to your door is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing either. High rewards mean high risks, and big jobs are often related to corporations, and corporations are the most dangerous things in this city. The last Tanaka kidnapping case, if they hadn't handled it cleanly, and successfully obtained the data, and also had the support of military technology, it is estimated that they would not be alive to enjoy themselves in Night City now. And now Faraday suddenly said there was an even bigger job than that, which aroused Main's interest, but also made him involuntarily vigilant. Seeing Main ask about the gig, Faraday threw him a chip. Main glanced at the chip and finally chose to jack in. As Main expected, the gig brought by Faraday, who had a close relationship with military technology, was again related to Arasaka. And this time, they were playing even bigger, snatching cargo from Arasaka's armed transport convoy. It's no exaggeration to say that this was indeed the biggest job Main had ever seen. But whether to take it or not was something Main had to consider. Robbing Arasaka's transport team was undoubtedly stirring up trouble. But being a mercenary is nothing more than for fame and profit. It was hard for him to say no to such a big job. After all, with the money from this single job, he wouldn't have to work hard for a long time, and anyone might want to give it a shot. After hesitating for a moment, Main finally chose to take the job. Main was already very close to the top of Night City's mercenaries, and becoming famous might be at this moment. But just as Main was about to agree to the gig, Rebecca, who was next to him, spoke up. Main. Rebecca shook her head at Main. Looking at Rebecca's expression, Main also understood what she meant. She wanted him not to take this job. Although he couldn't figure out why Rebecca wanted him to refuse, after a moment of consideration, Main still chose to trust Rebecca. Faraday, I'm not taking this job. Although he gave up a big job, this also avoided the risks associated with the mission. Perhaps Rebecca had relevant information and knew there was something fishy about it. And Faraday seemed not to have expected Maine to refuse. With Maine's personality, he shouldn't let go of such an opportunity. Faraday, who was refused, frowned slightly, seemingly displeased. Will you let a kid influence your judgment? It's getting more and more ridiculous, Maine. That has nothing to do with you, Faraday, I've made my decision. Chapter 94. If we switched roles, hearing man say this, Faraday found it difficult to say anything more, only letting out a cold snort and preparing to leave. Just as he was about to step out of the private room, he was stopped by Rebecca's curses. Get lost, you lapdog of military technology. The current Rebecca was no longer a mercenary who relied on middlemen for work. She wouldn't tolerate Faraday like man did. She had long been displeased with this arrogant middleman. It was just that she used to be a mascot in the team, with little influence. Even with her fiery temper, she didn't dare offend the middleman who gave them commissions. But times were different now. Rebecca wasn't afraid of Faraday anymore, so she naturally had to unleash all the curses she had held back before. Hearing Rebecca curse at him, Faraday couldn't help but stop. His four eyes stared intently at Rebecca, seemingly angered by her offense. And when Rebecca saw that Faraday dared to glare at her, her temper immediately flared up. What are you looking at, you four-eyed old geezer? Was I wrong to curse at you? Hearing Rebecca get more and more heated with her curses, even Faraday, who always acted calm and elegant, was about to lose control of his expression. Faraday's eye twitched slightly, but in the end, he couldn't force out a single word. As the saying goes, information is the price of a middleman's business. As one of the most famous middlemen in Night City, Faraday naturally held a lot of information in his hands. He naturally knew that Rebecca was no longer a member of Maine's team. Otherwise, he would have exploded the moment Rebecca cursed at him the first time. No mercenary in Night City dared to speak to him like that. Which of those mercenaries didn't grovel before him, expecting him to bestow commissions upon them? But unfortunately, Rebecca was not a mercenary, and Faraday was well aware of this. The current Rebecca was with Ascension Technology, and had a close relationship with Ascension Technology's upper management. This piece of information he knew. If middlemen were the ones who bestowed rewards upon mercenaries and kept them fed, then the relationship between middlemen and corporations was similar, except the middleman was the one waiting for the reward. Corporations were the true masters of this city, and no one ever questioned the truth of this statement. Although he didn't know how Rebecca had climbed to this level of connection, she was undoubtedly someone Faraday couldn't afford to offend now. Don't let Ascension Technology seem like a newly established company. In reality, its influence in Night City was not small. Now, thanks to its powerful effects and the strong promotion by Arasaka and Ascension Technology, Power Excitement Agent could be said to be sweeping across all of Night City. The mercenary industry, the military security industry, company employees, entertainment venues, all the scenes you can imagine, or even the unseen dark alleys on the streets, you could see the presence of Power Excitement Agent. Of course, this was only what ordinary citizens could see. As a middleman in Night City, Faraday also knew more information about Ascension Technology. It wasn't just the mysterious agent it produced that made major corporations flock to it, it also had deep cooperation with Arasaka. According to what Faraday knew, all the mercenaries who accepted commissions to deal with Ascension Technology ultimately never appeared in people's sight again, all meeting untimely deaths. This was the reason Faraday dared not speak up when faced with Rebecca's insults. Ascension Technology was far from as simple as imagined. It was precisely because of this that their roles were now reversed, and Rebecca had become someone who could step on Faraday. In the end, Faraday said nothing more, only enduring his anger and leaving amidst Rebecca's curses. Rebecca, that's enough. Why did you stop me from taking this commission? Do you know if there's a problem with it? Man saw Faraday leave and Rebecca stop her cursing, and only then did he speak up to ask. Rebecca's cursing at Faraday just now made Man sweat profusely. If this were in the past, it would have been unthinkable. Of course, he wouldn't do such a thing now either. After all, he was only famous now, not yet a legend of Night City. Before becoming a living legend of Night City, the relationship between mercenaries and middlemen would likely not change much. Seeing Man ask, Rebecca could only explain the reason. After all, she wasn't considered a member of the team now, and making others give up a commission they had secured wasn't a good thing to do. Let's go back to when Man accessed the chip given by Faraday. Rebecca, who was sitting nearby, originally didn't plan to interfere with Man and their work. But just as Man was looking at the information on the chip and considering whether to take the commission, information popped up in front of Rebecca. The content on it was exactly the same as the content on the chip Man had accessed. It was obvious this was Lyssandra's doing. Looking at the commission information before her, Rebecca couldn't help but complain to Lysandra in her mind. Lysandra, do you know this is impolite behavior? The fact that Lysandra could get the content from the chip clearly meant she had discreetly hacked into Man's system. As Man's friend, Rebecca naturally didn't want Lysandra to do this. But what responded to Rebecca was Lysandra's emotionless voice. For me, there is no politeness or impoliteness, only what should be done and what should not be done. Faraday, as a middleman, has close ties with military technology. Most of the commissions he releases are related to military technology, and there's a high probability they are actions targeting Arasaka or Ascension technology. My mission is to ensure the safety of Ascension technology, so I should collect this information. Hearing Lysandra say this, Rebecca could only reluctantly accept and then looked at Faraday's commission request. She was also a little curious about what kind of big deal this was. As Rebecca watched, Lysandra also analyzed the content of the commission. Robbing Arasaka's armed transport team. According to analysis, the goods Arasaka is escorting are highly likely to be their latest developed cyberpunk suit, Cyberpunk. Lysandra, as the cornerstone of Ascension Technologies' counterintelligence, had almost all information converging into her database, making her the intelligence hub of the entire Ascension technology. As for the information about Cyberpunk, Luauchi told Lysandra about it with the purpose of having her pay attention to events related to Cyberpunk. At the same time, Luauchi also informed Lysandra about possible situations involving Cyberpunk. Combining other information and the current time point, Lysandra easily analyzed that the goods Arasaka was transporting were likely Cyberpunk. What is Cyberpunk? A big question mark flashed in Rebecca's small head. A Cyberpunk suit developed by Arasaka, it is an extremely terrifying battlefield weapon. Lysandra explained to Rebecca, then continued to analyze. If the analysis is correct and the goods transported by the Arasaka forces are Cyberpunk, then such an unreasonable route and relaxed defenses likely mean this is an Arasaka trap. And military technology also understands this point, which is why they chose to have Faraday recruit mercenaries to probe. Chapter 95 Evil Earth. Rebecca's little head wasn't dumb, and she quickly grasped the main point of what Lysandra said. You mean Faraday is looking for scapegoats for military technology? How dangerous would it be if Man and his team took this job? The survival rate is no more than 5%, with a high probability of total annihilation. This was Lysandra's assessment. Hearing Lysandra say this, Rebecca didn't doubt the judgment of the top-tier artificial intelligence. Instead, she immediately motioned for Man not to take this deadly job. This is a trap. The transport team says it's Arasaka's high-end weapons. Military technology is looking for scapegoats to go first. This job is a dead end from beginning to end. Returning to the present, Rebecca stated the reason. Seeing Rebecca say this, Man nodded. The current Rebecca works at Ascension Technology, and Ascension Technology is a partner company of Arasaka. It was also very reasonable for her to know some inside information. This damn Faraday, he must know the situation. This animal wants to kill us. Man couldn't help but curse loudly. Man wasn't wrong, Faraday indeed knew this job was a certain death situation. Arasaka was planning to lure out military technology's army. Kate, who was in charge of this incident, smartly chose to bribe middlemen connected to military technology and have them spread the news. And unsurprisingly, the agent who received Kate's order eventually found Faraday. There weren't many famous middlemen in Night City, and among those with close ties to military technology, Faraday was undoubtedly the one. And facing the conditions offered by Arasaka, Faraday also gladly accepted. The current Faraday, having successfully completed the Tanaka incident job, had not lost military technology's trust. So he hadn't completely sided with Arasaka, but simply held the idea of making money whenever possible and took on the job Arasaka gave him. From the start, Faraday knew this was a trap. Arasaka was testing Cyberpunk. While collecting the money given by Arasaka, he leaked the information to military technology according to Arasaka's plan. At the same time, he took on military technology's job, helping them find scapegoats who could go first. A typical case of playing both sides. Sending these mercenaries to their deaths against Cyberpunk didn't hinder him from collecting military technology's job payment. In fact, he could get even more. Skilled at scheming and utterly profit-driven, Faraday displayed this to the fullest. He never cared whether the mercenaries lived or died. What he needed was money, power, and the ladder to climb to the upper echelons of the corporation. The gears of fate turned and turned back to the starting point. History is always astonishingly similar. Arasaka's Cyberpunk was once again preparing to meet military technology. Only this time, David wasn't the center of the incident, but Main's team nearly became the unlucky ones. But don't forget, the person who turned the gears of fate is still here. Ascension technology. When Lysandra probed the contents of Faraday's chip, Luauchi here had already received the news simultaneously. Looking at the intelligence Lysandra provided, this familiar scene, Luauchi naturally understood what had happened. Cyberpunk. Huh, it seems Arasaka has found a suitable test subject. Tapping his fingers lightly on the desk, Luauchi pondered the cause of the incident. Luauchi wasn't surprised by the appearance of Cyberpunk. Although Luauchi had kidnapped David beforehand, preventing him from being targeted by Arasaka. But his advanced soldier serum had provided Arasaka with countless Davids. This made it reasonable for Cyberpunk to appear and cause trouble. Luauchi had asked Lysandra to pay attention to matters concerning Cyberpunk. But honestly, he wasn't that interested in Cyberpunk now. Cyberpunk certainly looked like a good weapon on the battlefield. But in terms of individual combat, it seemed less effective. In a one-on-one fight, it couldn't even beat Atom Smasher, which was truly a bit embarrassing. As for its performance on the battlefield, it was actually just so-so. Fighting ordinary armies was fine, the efficiency of clearing small fry was quite high. But if it encountered a vibranium mechanical legion that could withstand its gravity field, I wouldn't even know how it would fight. Let alone how you would react when I pull out BT. However, having said that, Cyberpunk is somewhat of an important event, and it would be too boring not to participate. After all, a yearly spectacle like Cyberpunk versus military technology isn't easy to come across. And it's also time to deal with this guy Faraday. Outside Night City. This area known as the Badlands. Endless dry shrubs grew on the plains covered in yellow sand. Such a harsh environment also made the Badlands sparsely populated. In Night City, not many residents were willing to set foot in the Badlands. Besides the few nomadic tribes living there, only gangs who specialized in robbing corporate transport convoys were active here. And at this moment, on these Badlands, a group of desperados was concealed on one side of the highway. They were fully armed, carrying large weapons, but their mismatched gear and clothing different from the Badlands. Residents also indicated their identity. Undoubtedly, they were mercenaries from Night City. They had been waiting here since early on, and before long, excitement flashed in their eyes. Their target had appeared. On the highway, a convoy bearing the Arasaka Group logo was continuously advancing along the road. The convoy wasn't large, but it consisted of the most top-tier armed transport vehicles. The large transport truck in the very center, surrounded by others, was protected to the extreme. It was hard not to guess what kind of big item was loaded inside. Just as the Arasaka convoy passed the mercenary team, that group of mercenaries let out excited howls, floored the accelerator, and charged towards the Arasaka convoy. Woohoo! Charge! This was the biggest job of their lives. After completing this job, countless amounts of money would be theirs. How could this not make them crazy? In the Arasaka convoy, the armed forces immediately reacted upon seeing vehicles approaching from the flank. Although they didn't know what they were transporting, nor did they know that someone was targeting their team. But transporting goods in a place like the Badlands, they had long been prepared to encounter robbers. This was arguably the most normal thing in the Badlands. On one side were mercenaries driven mad by the sky-high reward, and on the other were Arasaka troops fighting for their jobs and lives. The two sides quickly engaged. But clearly, Arasaka, as the overlord of Night City, had its top-tier armed transport unit, which was not something any small fry could challenge. Let alone the rotten goods Faraday had found on short notice. Chapter 96 Cyborg Intense gunshots echoed across the open Badlands. The mercenaries, holding heavy machine guns, strafed the Arasaka convoy. But their big guns couldn't inflict significant damage on Arasaka's armored vehicles. Instead, Arasaka's escort vehicles rammed them into disarray. Instead of passively defending or accelerating to escape the attack, Arasaka's armed escort team began actively clearing out these annoying mercenaries. Controlling the armored vehicles to get close to the mercenaries' vehicles, drawing guns, and headshotting them, all in one smooth motion. Soon, these mercenaries were completely cleared out. But the crisis for the Arasaka convoy was not yet over. Having dealt with this group of mercenaries, more were waiting for them up ahead. Even if dealing with these mercenaries wasn't difficult for them, it wasn't without cost. Facing wave after wave of mercenaries, Arasaka's transport team slowly began to show signs of decline. The armed personnel were decreasing little by little. Dealing with these mercenaries also gradually became more difficult. At this rate, it was likely only a matter of time before these mercenaries took them down. Arasaka Transport Convoy. The large transport truck in the very center, which was the main objective of this transport mission. Inside the truck compartment, two fully armed Arasaka soldiers sat facing each other, holding their guns. The sound of bullets hitting the outside of the truck, blocked by the high-strength protective steel plates, turned into faint thuds echoing inside the compartment. On the tactical panel nearby, red dots constantly appeared and then disappeared. And the blue dots representing their teammates were also slowly disappearing. At this moment, their expressions hidden by their tactical helmets were somewhat tense. Because they were intercepted all the way through the Badlands. In the past, Arasaka's reinforcement team should have been on their way by now. But until now, let alone reinforcement troops, they hadn't even heard a sound. This also made them sense something different. Either the enemy was too powerful, or there was something wrong with this mission. Swallowing. They looked towards the other side in unison. They saw a large object they had never seen before placed on one side of the compartment. Its iconic huge gorilla arms indicated its identity. Cyberpunk, and right in the middle of the Cyberpunk, a limbless, unconscious figure was suspended. Looking at this scene, the two armed soldiers, although they didn't know what the Cyberpunk they were transporting was, it didn't prevent them from guessing that this was Arasaka's latest research product. With such an important product in danger, Arasaka was not at all anxious. How could they not understand the meaning behind this? It was obvious they were just bait. But what was the point of knowing this? It would only make their deaths more painful. As pawns under Arasaka, they seemed to have no right to choose their own life or death. Boom! With a huge sound and violent jolt, the rapidly moving truck suddenly came to a stop. And these two armed soldiers also received their final mission: activate the installation program on the truck's terminal. Across the vast Badlands, the driver of the transport truck was still taken down by the mercenaries. The truck, with its braking program activated, kicked up a large swath of yellow earth, finally coming to a slow stop under the overwhelming yellow sand. This group of mercenaries, who knows which wave they were, looked at the truck in the sky-filling yellow sand, revealing excited smiles. They didn't notice at all that on one side of the dust, a gap had suddenly broken open. As if someone had crashed through this yellow sand barrier at an extremely high speed. The mercenaries excitedly approached the truck's door. The hacker in the team began to work hard on the side to crack the door. But just as the hacker hadn't completely unlocked the door, the ground suddenly began to shake. The mercenaries turned their heads one after another, only to see a scene that filled them with terror. They saw that across the Badlands, armored vehicles marked with military technology occupied their vision. The vast convoy caused the entire ground to tremble slightly, and the stirred-up sand and dust even obscured half the sky. And besides the ordinary armored vehicles, there were also a large number of armed missile vehicles mixed in. But what terrified these mercenaries the most was the military technology two-seater hover tank flying in midair, the Basilisk. Military technology? What kind of force is this? The mercenary leader shouted in terror. He had never seen such a lineup before. Boss, what should we do? Should we run? One of the mercenaries asked urgently. This wasn't just about a small armed transport convoy anymore. See those ready-to-fire missile vehicles? If they unleashed a round of missile bombardment, they would all be reduced to dust. They were just desperados, not truly wanting to die. But just as the boss was hesitating while looking at these military technology forces, another terrible situation seemed to arise. They saw a sudden huge thud coming from the truck, which had been very quiet. And a large outward bulge immediately appeared on the indestructible truck door. As if a terrifying behemoth was locked inside, awakening at this moment, ready to rush out and devour people. Retreat. Seeing this scene, the mercenary captain also quickly gave the order. If they didn't retreat now, they would truly die. However, this was a commission where death was inevitable anyway, so how could they possibly survive so easily? They saw the truck door make a loud noise for the second time, and the door could no longer withstand this immense force, being blown outward. As the truck lost its door, the scene inside the compartment was revealed. What met their eyes was deep red. Not the red light of an alarm, but splattered blood. Those two Arasaka soldiers were turned into the best paint, giving the compartment a new coating. The Cyberpunk, or rather, test subject Captain Baffle, was unleashed. There was no roar like a gorilla as imagined. Baffle's face showed unexpected indifference. At this moment, he could feel the terrifying power this cybernetic body brought him. As an iron-blooded soldier, he had never seen such a cybernetic body. But at this moment, he was not happy about his own strength. Because he knew he was nothing more than a pathetic test subject. What was the point of a test subject being strong? His existence was solely to provide Arasaka with a grand performance, and then be thrown into a garbage can to slowly rot and die. From the moment he was injured and fell unconscious on the battlefield, revived by a mysterious injection, and, voluntarily, participated in this Arasaka experimental project, he knew his fate. So, who should be blamed for this? Himself, who performed bravely on the battlefield but unfortunately lost. Baffle didn't think so. The one who should die should be Arasaka. Chapter 97 Personality Disintegration. Baffle hated Arasaka, and the armed soldiers scattered in the truck were his masterpiece. But that was just his powerless venting. Sorting out his thoughts, Baffle looked at the group of hurried mercenaries in front of him, casually raised his hand, and crushed them into meat paste with a gravity field. Under the influence of the gravity field, even the ground was pressed into a terrifying giant pit. However, this gravity field does not only affect the outside world. At the same time Baffle used the gravity field, a sharp pain also uncontrollably arose in his head, making his mind even more chaotic. It also made his thinking more violent. After dealing with these insignificant small thieves, Baffle turned his attention to the armed forces surrounding him in the distance. Military technology. Is this Arasaka's goal? To make me fight these armies? The armed forces were getting closer and closer, and the missiles on the missile vehicles were ready to fire. Looking at the scene before him, Baffle didn't actually want to do as Arasaka wished. What he wanted to do more now was to rush up Arasaka Tower with this set of Cyberpunk. Kill all the guys who turned him into this ghost-like appearance. But at this moment, the memories in his mind made him calm down again. Subject Baffle, the military technology army is your target. Let me see your capabilities then. Don't think about playing any tricks, you should know our methods best. As long as you handle the military technology troops, your daughter won't need to work hard for the rest of her life. She will get the best life and the best education. But if you don't do this, I don't need to say more about the consequences. I don't want to repeat these words a second time. Your life was picked up by Arasaka, it's a fair trade, as it should be. Not to mention it can bring a new life to your daughter, this can be considered your last bit of use, isn't it? What a load of high-sounding bullshit. Baffle spat fiercely, enduring his anger and cursing. Using weaknesses to threaten, a despicable but effective method. Even a hardened soldier like Baffle could only comply when faced with such a threat. Before Baffle could continue to sink into his memories, the military technology troops were pressing closer and closer, and the missiles on the missile vehicles instantly spewed out. The violent firepower coverage arrived, and Baffle also activated Sandevistan in an instant, avoiding the dense missile rain. As an elite in the army, Baffle naturally had Sandevistan installed, and it was even a high-intensity military model. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been targeted by Arasaka. The installation of Cyberpunk does not affect the performance of Sandevistan, rather, the two complement each other to form terrifying combat power. After dodging a round of missile rain, the mental load brought by the activation of Sandevistan caused the originally relatively calm Baffle to become inexplicably manic. If there were still living people in the truck compartment at this time, they would see that the personality collapse progress displayed on the terminal panel suddenly increased by several percentage points. Baffle, floating in the air with the help of the hovercar's propulsion device, looked at the military technology troops on the ground, his eyes revealing a bloodthirsty fierce light. Military technology and Arasaka are the same things. These corporate dogs deserve to die. Since I can't kill Arasaka's people, I'll kill you. Anyway, you're all things that should die. As he spoke, Baffle activated the gravity controller towards military technology. As Arasaka wished, Baffle, the first-generation subject, finally officially engaged with military technology. In an instant, gunshots, missile explosions, and the sound of gravity compression blasts. Like the roar of a war demon, they began to constantly resound in the Badlands. And on the other side, on a giant rock platform not far away, the ground seemed empty, but if you got closer and observed carefully, you could see a slightly distorted film in the air. Within this film, Luauchi was observing the battlefield ahead. For the first appearance of Cyberpunk, Luauchi naturally had to find the best viewing spot to appreciate it properly. To be able to come to the scene and see what this Cyberpunk was all about, Luauchi also exchanged for an invisible force field generator from deep space. Unlike ordinary stealth devices that achieve optical camouflage through optical coatings, the stealth device in deep space achieves the effect of optical camouflage by distorting the surrounding gravity field. It can be said to be an application of gravity-controlled devices with surgical precision. Naturally, one can also choose to create a large-scale stealth gravity field that is not so precise. Within this stealth field, Luauchi sat on the roof of the DeLorean, with Rebecca and Lucy on his left and right sides. The three of them each held a drink, as if they were on vacation in the Badlands. So amazing, Arasaka actually has this level of weapon, this is that cyberpunk thing. Rebecca said indistinctly while gulping down her drink. Just then, the surrounding stealth field suddenly fluctuated, and a figure flashed in. It was David, who had activated Sandevistan. At this time, David had just run back from Arasaka's truck. This was naturally arranged by Luauchi, to have David use data blades to assist Lysandra in hacking into the cyberpunk installation truck. David was equipped with Sandevistan and a stealth device, so he was naturally the most suitable for this task. With Lysandra's intervention, they would also be able to obtain the cyberpunk experimental data. Although it was useless for Ascension technology, it could at least serve as a bargaining chip, so Luauchi naturally wouldn't miss it. Seeing David return, Luauchi threw him a bottle of iced drink. Well done, come on, let's see the capabilities of this cyberpunk together. David was not polite, he took the drink and started drinking. Although he now had a Captain America-like physique, it was definitely false to say he wasn't tired running wildly with Sandevistan in the harsh environment of the Badlands. Having completed the task, David also joined the spectator team at this time. The battle on the other side began to enter a heated stage, but it looked more like a one-sided slaughter by Cyberpunk. With the help of Sandevistan, the military technology team had difficulty hitting Cyberpunk, and the immense power of Cyberpunk could easily flip their armored vehicles. The equipped gravity generator also posed a huge threat to military technology. But such powerful combat power was not without cost. Every time Sandevistan and Cyberpunk were used, the nerves connected to Baffle would erode his brain. This erosion accumulated continuously, making Baffle's brain increasingly chaotic and violent. The killing, which was originally driven by hatred and revenge, slowly shifted to instinct, an instinct for indiscriminate destruction and devastation. Baffle's personality was gradually disintegrating. And this was exactly what Arasaka wanted to see, they wanted to know the limits that Cyberpunk could reach. For Arasaka, Baffle was just a disposable experimental subject from beginning to end. Chapter 98 One Punch the Cyberpunk over there was still slaughtering. Luauchi summoned a holographic display panel, showing the data obtained from Lysandra's intrusion. At this moment, Baffle's personality disintegration level had reached 80%. And the disintegration level was still steadily rising, with no trend of decreasing. After all, Baffle didn't have 9 times the dose of inhibitors tied to his body, ready to give himself a shot at any time. His one-way ticket to hell never had a chance to turn back. Watching Baffle's continuously increasing disintegration level, Luauchi curiously checked other information about this experimental project. Baffle, a tough captain belonging to military technology. Was he accidentally captured by Arasaka during an operation against Arasaka not long ago? No wonder. But this guy didn't go easy on his old company when beating them up, Luauchi said, looking at the data on the panel. Perhaps he realized that military technology and Arasaka were birds of a feather. Fighting for the companies and ending up like this, he should have expected such an outcome long ago, Lucy on the side commented mercilessly. Rebecca, hearing the two chatting so excitedly, leaned her small head against Luoki's chest, pretending to look at the content on the screen. Luauchi also guessed that Rebecca definitely wasn't interested in these things. But he still obediently pinched her face, letting her lean against his chest. Seeing Rebecca's pretense, Lucy could only roll her eyes helplessly. And on the other side, David, sitting on the hood, was not affected by Luoki's sight at all. He was just staring at the cyberpunk in the distance with shining eyes. Although David's strength was not weak now, such a powerful cybernetic body was still very lethal to him. As the battle deepened, the erosion brought by the cyberpunk and Sandevistan was quickly reaching its limit. Different from the situation David had experienced, the current Baffle did not have the help of 9 times the dose of inhibitors. Coupled with the fact that military technology paid more attention to the cyberpunk after obtaining Tanaka's data, they also sent more troops. Under these multiple influences, even Baffle, who had been injected with the advanced soldier serum, had better cybernetic resistance than the original David. But the speed of personality disintegration was actually a bit faster, 0.99%, 100% before long, the disintegration level on the data panel reached its peak. This also meant that Baffle had completely become a cyberpunk, and a cyberpunk equipped with the cyberpunk. At this moment, the rational brilliance that humans should possess had been lost in Baffle's eyes. He looked like a madman, or rather, a beast. And that was exactly the case. As Baffle went completely insane, his attacks also became more violent. The already dwindling military technology troops were instantly wiped out. Only the last basilisk was left struggling to survive. And Baffle had no intention of letting it go. The moment he activated Sandevistan, he simultaneously operated the onboard hovercar. Thrusters at full power. In this extreme speed, he raised his terrifying giant fist and punched the basilisk with one blow. The basilisk hovering in the air was immediately sent flying horizontally by this immense force. The pilot inside the cabin quickly controlled the basilisk, attempting to stabilize it. But this immense force had already destroyed its hovering device. Ultimately, this basilisk didn't fly far before it lost control and was about to crash. And even Baffle, who had fallen into a frenzy, still hadn't forgotten the good habit of finishing off the enemy, operating his thrusters to give the basilisk another punch. But what was surprising, or rather, what surprised Luochi and the others, was this. This crashing basilisk was actually rushing straight towards Luochi and the others. Looking at the approaching basilisk, and Baffle, who was charging over to pursue the victory and getting closer to the stealth field, Luochi couldn't help but glance at David beside him. Dude, do you have some strange causal entanglement with the Cyberpunk? Luochi couldn't help but complain inwardly. Luochi was also very helpless when encountering this situation. Indeed, watching the show live was risky. Originally, he just wanted to bring Rebecca and the others to witness it and get the Cyberpunk's data by the way. As a result, things now seemed to have become a bit complicated. David on the side, seeing the basilisk about to smash straight towards them, quickly activated Sandevistan, wanting to do something, but not knowing what countermeasure to take. Seeing Luochi standing still, he couldn't decide whether to use Sandevistan to take them away. He could only wait for Luochi's instructions on the spot. And at this moment, Luochi was not flustered at all. None of them here, except David, could be killed by this thing hitting them. One could absorb the kinetic energy of the impact, one could erect a telekinetic barrier, and another could survive even if smashed to pieces. As for David, he ran quite fast with Sandevistan activated, so he probably wouldn't be smashed to death. The basilisk fell rapidly. The moment the basilisk entered the range of her telekinetic control, Lucy mobilized her telekinesis, making the basilisk deviate from its original trajectory and fly towards a farther place. Finally, the basilisk crashed heavily behind Luochi and the others. And at this moment, Baffle was also almost charging into the stealth field. Luochi simply directly deactivated the stealth field. The sudden change in the scene before his eyes instantly attracted Baffle's attention, and Luochi was also observing Baffle. At this moment, his body was covered in blood, some from enemies, but more of it was his own. His mouth was uncontrollably spitting blood. Not only that, his nose, ears, and even eyes were oozing blood. The erosion of the human body by cybernetics is not just mental. The load of high-intensity cybernetics on the body is also extremely terrifying. Even a reinforced physique couldn't support his continuous frantic use of cybernetics. The current Baffle, under the continuous ravages of the Cyberpunk and Sandevistan, was in a state of exhaustion. Even if Arasaka's people didn't come to deal with him, he would soon die of exhaustion. But Baffle's mad consciousness wouldn't care about the state of his body. He only knew that he saw 4 living people, and he wanted to destroy them. With another activation of Sandevistan, Baffle spat out another mouthful of blood, then raised his fist and charged towards Luochi. But unfortunately, this usually invincible iron fist wasn't so effective this time. When it came to punching, Luochi had never backed down from anyone. The tyrant system instantly activated, and at this moment, the world seemed to stand still. Luochi, using a speed faster than Baffle's, raised his left fist and rushed towards him. The two fists were about to collide. One was a huge cyberpunk iron fist, and the other was a seemingly somewhat slender cybernetic arm in comparison. This seemingly disparate confrontation was not like the expected victory of the large over the small, but exactly the opposite. Chapter 99. The fall of Cyborg. The kinetic energy on the huge iron fist was completely absorbed the moment it approached Luochi. It was then transformed into the energy stored and ready to be unleashed within Luochi's body. The body enhancement from the Super Soldier Serum and Compound 5, combined with the amplification of the Tyrant system, the kinetic energy just absorbed, and the energy already stored within Luochi's body, made the power of this punch reach an extremely terrifying level. Not only that, but Luochi's left cyberpunk arm had now been replaced with one entirely made of adamantium alloy. The hardness of the cyberpunk was as fragile as tofu compared to Luochi's arm. Luochi's extremely fast fist collided with the cyberpunk's iron fist, which had lost its kinetic energy and was stationary. Under David's extremely shocked gaze from the side, this punch directly shattered the cyberpunk's arm. Baffle, who had lost an arm, was sent flying by the terrifying force. However, there was no look of panic in his eyes, only madness remained. Baffle, who had finally stabilized his body by controlling the thrusters, intended to launch another attack. He activated the only remaining gravity field generator and aimed it at Luauchi. But at this point, Luauchi had no intention of wasting any more time. Arasaka's rescue team was about to arrive, and military technology's reinforcements were likely already on their way. Before long, this place would become a meat grinder between these two companies again. Luauchi didn't want them to discover him, nor did he intend to get involved in this mess any further. With the Tyrant system operating at full power, Luauchi chased after Baffle the moment the gravity field hadn't fully activated. He delivered another punch that turned Baffle's head into a bloody mess, allowing him to completely escape his suffering. Thus, Baffle, the first-generation experimental subject of the Cyberpunk who had caused a ruckus in the Badlands, had completely fallen. After dealing with Baffle, Luauchi had Lysandra begin processing the traces at the scene. Thanks to the initial hack into the truck, Lysandra had already gained control of the network here. Soon, Lysandra erased all data records at the scene, including the experimental data within the Cyberpunk. Originally, this data wasn't a big deal, but now it would expose his presence, so Luauchi could only reluctantly let Arasaka's efforts go to waste. Although he originally didn't want to do this, fate had other plans. He could only say sorry to his good ally Arasaka, and he'd dare to do it again next time. Get in the car, let's bail. After dealing with these matters, Luauchi called David and the others to get into the DeLorean, activated the flight mode, turned on the stealth field, and sped away, leaving behind the mess as a gift for Arasaka. Not long after Luauchi and the others left, Arasaka's rescue team arrived at the scene, and military technology's reinforcements followed shortly after. The two sides engaged in a fierce confrontation in the Badlands. Both sides' target was the Cyberpunk, and a great battle was imminent. But Arasaka's newly deployed elite unit steadily suppressed military technology's forces. The members of these elite units had all been enhanced with the advanced soldier serum and were equipped with the most advanced military-grade Cyberpunk. This was the first time these enhanced soldiers performed on the battlefield, and it once again proved the power of the soldier serum. Ultimately, this incident ended in a major defeat for military technology. Despite paying a huge price, military technology still failed to obtain the Cyberpunk. But Arasaka didn't necessarily win either. Because they spent a huge price to prevent military technology from taking the Cyberpunk, only to find that the data inside had been completely wiped, essentially working in vain. It can only be said that both sides lost, but military technology lost even more miserably. On the other hand, although Arasaka lost the Cyberpunk's combat data, they gained a set of combat data from the Serum Enhanced unit, so they didn't lose completely, and this combat data also made Arasaka realize the power of the advanced soldier serum once again. Arasaka Tower. At this time, the Cyberpunk incident had settled. The outcome of the incident was unexpected, and Arasaka was not satisfied with it. And counterintelligence was also handling the aftermath of this incident. In the office cubicle, V carefully reviewed the incident report. The Cyberpunk and military technology forces suffered mutual losses, the experimental subject died, the Cyberpunk was severely damaged. Combat data lost. Even the top hackers can't restore it. It seems military technology was fully prepared this time. Arasaka was careless. No, it should be said that Kate was careless, V murmured. The incident report surprised V. Although the Cyberpunk was not taken away by military technology, the data inside was completely lost. And Arasaka naturally locked the culprit as military technology. After all, whether from the traces at the scene or by reviewing the entire incident, only military technology had the capability and motive to do so. Arasaka could only attribute it to military technology realizing Arasaka's intentions in advance and preparing equipment and hackers to destroy the data. Just as V was still immersed in the incident report, the commotion from nearby attracted his attention. In another cubicle, Kate, with red hair, was hitting the desk to vent her frustration. Although the red optical Cyberpunk installed in her eyes made it impossible to see her expression, her face showed her anger. Several agents standing beside her were as quiet as cicadas in winter, fearing to provoke the third in command of counterintelligence. As the main planner of this Cyberpunk incident, the failure of the test not only brought her shame but also caused losses to the company, so she naturally had to bear the responsibility. Seeing this scene, V could only smile and shake his head, realizing that being overly clever was not always a good thing. Kate before him was a living example. Without paying too much attention to the situation over there, V stood up and prepared to carry out his own mission. This Cyberpunk incident not only affected Kate but also brought V a new mission. He was going to talk business with Ascension Technology. Although Arasaka gained nothing from this incident, compared to the heavily damaged military technology. From another perspective, it could be said that Arasaka won. And all of this was related to the advanced soldier serum. Whether it was the Cyberpunk's experimental subject or the serum-enhanced army that repeatedly pushed back military technology, Arasaka had fully tasted the benefits brought by the advanced soldier serum. Following this trend, with the help of the advanced soldier serum, Arasaka could gradually form an advantage over military technology in all aspects. In the long run, Arasaka's goal of far surpassing military technology and becoming the world's true armed technology emperor would no longer be distant. Clearly, Arasaka did not want to give up this advantage. Chapter 100 V visits Ascension Technology. Long time no see, V. In the reception room, Luochi greeted V, who was sitting opposite him. Arasaka sent you, right? What do you need? Luochi then directly asked about V's intentions. V came to the company to find Luochi instead of meeting him at a bar, clearly indicating he was here for company matters. Seeing Luochi get straight to the point, V skipped the pleasantries and said, "Long time no see, L. You're right, I'm here because Arasaka wants to pursue deeper cooperation with Ascension Technology regarding the advanced soldier serum. For example, Arasaka wants exclusive rights to the soldier serum and requires a large supply." Although V came to negotiate with Ascension Technology on behalf of Arasaka, since V and Luochi were acquaintances, he naturally didn't beat around the bush. He directly stated what Arasaka wanted most. According to intelligence gathered by Counterintelligence, Ascension Technology's upcoming press conference is planning to sell serum agents to the public. Although according to the contract at the time, the sold agent could only be a weakened version of the basic soldier serum, Arasaka could still maintain its advantage. But they were not satisfied with this. The flow of the weakened soldier serum to the market would inevitably weaken Arasaka's advantage. At the same time, it would allow military technology to acquire the serum agent through some unsavory means. This was something Arasaka did not want to see. They wanted the soldier serum to become exclusive to Arasaka. Previously, Arasaka had not fully recognized the changes the soldier serum could bring. They could gain the advantage of a special supply of the original agent at a very low cost. And 2 years later, they would unconditionally obtain the formula, achieve self-production and self-distribution, and gain market share for the soldier serum. This was already a huge profit. But people are always greedy, let alone a corporation like Arasaka. If they could use the soldier serum to gain a greater advantage and suppress military technology, the market share they could gain would bring Arasaka extremely terrifying profits. How could Arasaka let go of this opportunity? Hearing V's words, Luochi smiled slightly. Exclusive rights to the soldier serum? That's simple. I remember I promised to prioritize Arasaka's serum orders. If Arasaka can take all the serum we produce, wouldn't that be the same as having exclusive rights? Luochi said jokingly. If Arasaka could really buy all the serum produced, no matter the amount, he would just run the production lines at full capacity. Soon, Arasaka personnel could drink the serum like a beverage, and Luochi would no longer worry about money. Of course, this was impossible. Arasaka wasn't foolish. What Arasaka wants is exclusivity in terms of the contract. Facing Luochi's teasing, V could only helplessly clarify the matter. Arasaka wanted a complete monopoly on the serum. Whether now or after obtaining the formula in the future, Arasaka would be the only company besides Ascension Technology to possess the soldier serum. Tell me more specifically, Luochi continued to ask. Luochi was quite willing to discuss these collaborations with Arasaka, provided the terms were satisfactory to him. Arasaka wanted the serum, while Luochi only wanted money. He didn't care who the serum was sold to. If Arasaka wanted exclusive rights, that was fine too, as long as the money was sufficient. The expansion of Ascension Technology Industrial Park cost him a large amount of euros, and the production and armament of the Mechanical Legion were also bottomless pits. In addition, the exchange of many technologies also required a lot of money. Only with money could he change the world. Originally, Luochi's plan was to earn money back by selling basic soldier serum to the public, but if Arasaka could offer a suitable price, Luochi didn't mind cooperating. The soldier serum agent will only be supplied to Arasaka, and the plan to sell the serum agent to the public will be cancelled. In exchange, Arasaka will provide a large number of serum orders and pay Ascension Technology a huge monopoly compensation fee when the serum formula is delivered in the future. Luochi was not surprised why Arasaka knew about Ascension Technology's recent plan to sell serum to the public. However, upon hearing Arasaka's offer stated by V, Luochi shook his head. According to V's words, it was equivalent to exchanging the money from selling basic soldier serum for Arasaka's so-called huge compensation. Leaving aside which would earn more, even if the compensation amount was large, it was still money that would only be received in the future. What Luoqi needed wasn't money in the future, he needed it now. Ascension Technology can accept Arasaka's proposal, but there's one point: the compensation must be paid immediately after the contract is signed. Ascension Technology needs to obtain tangible benefits right away. Hearing the condition proposed by Luoqi, V nodded. I don't have the authority to finalize this. I'm just here to inform you of Arasaka's ideas in advance. The specific transaction details will only be confirmed after you meet with the board members. However, I will explain your demands to my superiors. Arasaka attaches great importance to the serum matter, and I believe that as long as it is within a reasonable range, Arasaka will try its best to meet your conditions. While responding to Luoqi, V also kindly reminded Luoqi of Arasaka's emphasis on this matter, allowing him to gain an advantage in subsequent negotiations, but what V didn't expect was that Luoqi's next words greatly surprised him. Oh, that's interesting. It seems the cyberpunk matter has had quite an impact on Arasaka. The moment the term cyberpunk appeared, V's expression unconsciously changed. Although cyberpunk was not a secret to Arasaka employees at V's level, this word should not have come from Luoqi's mouth. V didn't remember revealing anything about cyberpunk to Luoqi, so how did he know? Cyberpunk is an Arasaka experimental project. You seem to know something about it. V asked calmly. I know a bit. After all, this big guy caused quite a stir in the Badlands, an Arasaka secret research project on a cybernetic suit, using military technology for combat testing. Truly interesting. It's just a pity that after all of Arasaka's hard work, the data in the experimental subject disappeared without a trace. What a shame. If V was only slightly surprised when Luoqi first mentioned cyberpunk, after all, Tanaka's case leaked data, and it wasn't impossible for him to catch wind of some information from it. But now that Luoqi stated the fact that the experimental subject's data was lost, V was left with only shock. This was confidential information within Arasaka. How could Luoqi know? Could it be that Ascension Technology's spies had already infiltrated Arasaka? This explanation might make sense, but if it were true, it would be too fantastical. I'm a little curious how you got this information. V couldn't help but ask. Of course, this was just V asking out of curiosity. Although V had no intention of betraying Arasaka for the time being, he didn't mentally identify himself as Arasaka's loyal dog. Chapter 101. Territory Expansion. V's loyalty to Arasaka was merely to climb to a higher position and enjoy better treatment. He wasn't foolish enough to truly identify with Arasaka. Even if Luoqi's people had truly infiltrated Arasaka, he saw no need to expose the spies. After all, Luoqi had helped him many times. It could be said that Luoqi contributed significantly to V reaching his current position, from helping him handle Jenkins's commission to the soldier serum incident, which brought him sufficient merit. V was not someone who would forget his origins or betray his brothers. Although he hadn't spent much time with Luoqi, he still considered Luoqi a friend and treated him as one of his own. He even thought about working at Ascension Technology, had he not already made achievements in Arasaka's counterintelligence. After all, his good brother Jack was there, and working under Luoqi was definitely more comfortable than dealing with the disgusting capitalists at Arasaka. Facing V's inquiry, Luoqi handed him a data chip. V, who took the chip, suppressed his curiosity, glanced at Luoqi, and without much hesitation, plugged the chip in. The content of the chip was naturally the cyberpunk experimental data that Arasaka had lost. The moment he saw the data, V suddenly understood. It turned out that the data loss at that time was not the work of military technology, but rather this seemingly insignificant Arasaka partner company, Ascension Technology. But how they did it, that was what shocked V the most. Surprised, aren't you? Seeing V's shocked expression, Luoqi smiled and continued. V, Ascension Technology is not as simple as you imagine. I believe the data in front of you is the best proof. Of course, Ascension Technology hasn't reached Arasaka's level yet, but one day in the future, all of this will be realized. You are Jack's brother and my friend, which is why I'm showing you this openly. And with this data, I believe you can advance further in Arasaka. Then what are the conditions? V understood what Luoqi meant. He was giving this data to himself. With this data, V could indeed advance further in Arasaka. Kate had messed this up, and Arasaka believed the data had been tampered with by military technology. With a little manipulation, V could get the credit for recovering the data from military technology, but in the world of adults, there are no unprovoked gifts. The value of this data was self-evident, and Luochi must have his demands. V. Don't overcomplicate things. This data isn't of much significance to Ascension Technology, consider it an investment in you. I do need your help, but not right now. The relationship between Ascension Technology and Arasaka isn't just about one or two spy operations. I need you to climb to a higher position as quickly as possible. That way, you can provide help to Ascension Technology at a critical moment. Although the current V seemed to have reached a height that ordinary people could never achieve in a lifetime, but looking at Arasaka as a whole, the voice V could raise was too small, and the things he could access were too few to provide significant help to Ascension Technology. Alright, I understand. Thanks, brother. Seeing Luochi say this, V accepted the data chip without being overly sentimental. Although he owed another favor, this data was indeed very helpful to V. You're welcome. Watching V accept the chip, Luochi took out a bottle of fine wine from the cabinet nearby and poured V a glass. Come on, opportunities to meet are rare. To friendship. To friendship. Their glasses clinked. After taking a sip of the strong liquor, Luochi suddenly spoke again. Oh, right, V. Jack talked to me about you, saying you joined Arasaka, constantly striving, wanting to climb to the top. I know you're on a good track for promotion in Arasaka right now, and you probably don't want to give that up. But what I want to say is, if one day you get tired of all this, see through Arasaka, and understand that at the very top of Arasaka will always be Arasaka Saburo and the Arasaka family. Ascension Technology will open its doors to you. Perhaps here, you can find a different ideal for yourself and strive with us. All remember that. Luochi and V's conversation was quite pleasant. After that, V conveyed Luochi's ideas to the Arasaka high-ups. After much back and forth, Arasaka finally agreed to Luochi's terms. They paid Ascension Technology a large sum in monopoly compensation fees. After all, the monopoly on the serum was too important to Arasaka. Arasaka without the soldier serum was one of the most powerful corporations in the world, but Arasaka with a monopoly on the soldier serum had a chance to turn one of into the only. So, faced with the exorbitant compensation Luochi demanded, Arasaka could only reluctantly accept. And Luochi was very satisfied with this outcome, because even if he sold the basic soldier serum externally, the profits would accumulate slowly. What Luochi lacked most was time. The huge sum obtained from Arasaka now was equivalent to exchanging long-term profits for a large amount of money. Perhaps this would be considered short-sighted in an ordinary company. But it was different for Ascension Technology. For Ascension Technology, the faster the money was in hand, the better. This way, Luochi could immediately exchange for more modular items, expand the company's scale, and achieve compound growth. The war that erupted over the Cyberpunk incident was not small. However, as it did not occur within Night City itself, but in the uninhabited Badlands. Therefore, it did not cause too much sensation. The impact and spread of the incident were limited to within the major corporations. Night City's news media, not having received instructions from the two companies, also did not report on this. Instead, their attention was focused on another event, the latest press conference held by Night City's emerging corporation, Ascension Technology. Ascension Technology was no longer an entity that needed to piggyback on Arasaka's popularity to gain attention. After Ascension Technology announced that it would hold a new round of press conferences, it quickly attracted the attention of various media outlets in Night City. News 54 reporting. Just today, Night City's highly anticipated tech and pharmaceutical corporation, Ascension Technology, held a new round of press conferences. Mr. L., the current chairman of Ascension Technology, attended the press conference and brought a major announcement to Night City. At the press conference, Mr. L elaborated extensively on Ascension Technology's future development direction. It is expected that in the future, Ascension Technology will develop into a strong tech enterprise in multiple fields. In addition to the familiar pharmaceutical field, intelligent robots, aerospace, new energy, and many other areas are all part of Ascension Technology's plans, and the multifunctional mobile robot physical prototype showcased at the press conference is a significant attempt by Ascension Technology to venture into the field of intelligent robots. Chapter 102 Marvin plays with the dog. There was a lot of content at the press conference, but most of it was meaningless talk. It also had nothing to do with the ordinary citizens of Night City. This press conference could be said to have been specifically prepared by Luochi for the companies in Night City. The purpose was to tell them that Ascension Technology was going to do things differently, that we are not just a pharmaceutical company. Don't be too surprised if Ascension technology brings out something else in the future. The demonstration of the Marvin robot proved that Ascension technology wasn't just talking. This preemptive shot was given to those companies to facilitate Ascension Technology's expansion plan. After the press conference was held, Ascension Technology officially began its territorial expansion. With the financial support from its good brother Arasaka, the expansion of Ascension Technology's industrial park went very smoothly, and was even built larger than originally planned. Inside the factory, Marvin robots were constantly being built one after another, and then placed into different positions within Ascension Technology. However, this behavior was sharply criticized by many media outlets that did not receive sponsorship from Ascension Technology. They claimed that Ascension Technology was going to great lengths to produce robots, but the actual robot maintenance cost might be higher than the original labor cost, calling it a waste of effort. They said that Ascension Technology's foray into the robot manufacturing industry this time was a failure. And under such public opinion, Ascension Technology still produced these robots with great enthusiasm. Although what these media said was completely correct, they never considered what a terrifying frenzy these seemingly failed Marvin robots would stir up in Night City in the future. Ascension Technology. In a room next to the laboratory. This place was set up as a boxing ring by Luochi. Luochi, Lao Wei, and Jack all kept the habit of boxing and often scheduled matches here. Although there is a significant difference in the strength of the three now, as long as they control it a bit, it does not affect their enjoyment of the pleasure brought by boxing. And today, besides the boxing trio, there was a new person here. That person was Marvin. Since Marvin was manufactured, except for running various upgrades and enhancements, he spent the rest of his time in the laboratory as Lao Wei's assistant. It's no exaggeration to say that Marvin was raised by Lao Wei himself. And Lao Wei naturally taught Marvin boxing techniques, just as he did with Luochi back then. Lao Wei even specially made a boxing glove component for Marvin, which could be installed on Marvin's hand, making him look like he was wearing boxing gloves. This glove was connected to Marvin's system, and there was also Marvin's distinctive expression display screen on the back of the hand. Marvin also liked this glove very much. At this moment, on the boxing ring, Lao Wei and Marvin were enthusiastically exchanging punches. But after a while, Lao Wei was defeated. Although Marvin had limited his power output to the same level as Lao Wei, his vibranium body made Lao Wei completely helpless against him. Almost all the kinetic energy hitting him was absorbed. Let alone knocking Marvin down, it was difficult to even push him back. Not to mention that robots don't have the weaknesses of humans, their whole body is a solid piece of metal. In terms of technique, Marvin's learning ability also allowed him to surpass Lao Wei in this short period of time. Can't fight, can't fight. Lao Wei admitted defeat wholeheartedly. Hey, this guy is too much of a cheat, I'll go have a go at him. Seeing Lao Wei step out of the boxing ring, Jack immediately wanted to go up and test Marvin's strength. Facing Jack, Marvin couldn't be as relaxed as when he fought Lao Wei. Jack had undergone 2 rounds of serum enhancement, both focused on physical strength, so his power was not on the same level as Lao Wei's. The properties of vibranium could no longer allow Marvin to ignore Jack's heavy punches. Soon, the two engaged in a back-and-forth battle. Luochi, below the stage, was also watching this scene with great interest. And at this moment, Lysandra brought Luochi some bad news. Another attack incident. Luochi looked at the information displayed on the panel, his brows slightly furrowed. Just now, Ascension Technology's raw material transport team was attacked by the 6th Street Gang. And this was already the 8th attack incident in the past few days. In just these few days, various attack incidents targeting Ascension Technology have emerged one after another, from transport teams to company employees, and even the company's industrial park. All have been attacked to varying degrees. The attacking teams were made up of mercenaries from Night City and also gangs from Night City. Among them, the 6th Street Gang was the most active. Clearly, some people were getting anxious. The Cyberpunk incident not only made Arasaka realize the importance of the serum. There was another company in this vortex, and that was Military Technology. Military Technology also realized the terrifying nature of the serum in this incident. As Arasaka's arch-nemesis, Military Technology was very clear about the consequences if Ascension Technology and Arasaka were allowed to develop like this. So Military Technology became anxious and began to spread a large number of commissions targeting Ascension Technology, as an appetizer for dealing with Ascension Technology. And the attack incidents that have occurred in the past few days were naturally the work of Military Technology. Although these attack incidents basically did not cause much actual damage to Ascension Technology. Many were handled by the Special Operations Department. But as the attack incidents targeting Ascension technology became more and more frequent, Jack and the others were clearly getting overwhelmed. And Luauchi simply told Jack and the others to stop bothering with these attack incidents. Dealing with these annoying mercenaries and gangs, like mosquitoes, was too time-consuming and laborious for just Jack and a few others. Moreover, even if they were dealt with, it would not be possible to curb the occurrence of more attack incidents. These mosquitoes would only become more and more numerous. Facing such a situation, Luauchi chose to send a gift to these gangs and mercenaries targeting Ascension technology, as well as military technology. A special big gift. After giving Lysandra an instruction, Luauchi stopped paying attention to the attack incidents. Instead, he turned his attention back to Jack and Marvin who were fighting in the ring. Today was one of the rare days when a few of them gathered to box, and Luauchi didn't want to miss the fun of boxing by being distracted. In the ring, Jack and Marvin went back and forth. Their strength was not much different, and Jack could also defend against Marvin's heavy punches in terms of resistance to blows. So the two had been fighting for a long time without a clear winner. Under the light from above, Jack's muscles were clearly defined. On the other side, as a robot, Marvin also had a unique metallic sheen on his body. However, upon closer inspection, one would notice 4 neat scratches on Marvin's right metal arm, as if torn by sharp claws, which somewhat damaged his inherent aesthetic beauty at this moment. And this flaw was accidentally caused when he was teasing a dog in the laboratory not long ago. Chapter 103 Project Doomsday Night. Santo Domingo. A certain abandoned warehouse. This place had been occupied by the 6th Street Gang and turned into one of their strongholds. At this time, the 6th Street Gang had just completed a tense and exciting robbery mission. The target was precisely the recently prominent Ascension technology. And the mission was very successful, although the several Arasaka security personnel in the transport team were a bit difficult to handle, causing them to lose a few gang brothers. But the reward they would receive after the success was very generous. At this moment, they had just transported the stolen goods back to this secret warehouse, preparing to wait for the employer behind them to come and take it away. Inside the warehouse, there were 6th Street Gang sentries and patrolling soldiers everywhere. The entire warehouse stronghold had entered a state of alert. Most of the 6th Street Gang members were veterans from the battlefield, so compared to other gangs, they had better discipline. At this moment, they were focused on their guard. The 6th Street Gang had accepted quite a few commissions targeting Ascension technology. Although they were not afraid of Ascension technology, they had heard about the efficiency of the Ascension Technology Special Operations Department. To prevent their attack from coming, the 6th Street Gang naturally strengthened the stronghold's defenses. In the corner of the warehouse, 2 6th Street Gang soldiers were standing respectively in front of 2 pillars, facing each other on sentry duty, monitoring the corner of the warehouse. The monitoring area formed by the two was theoretically foolproof. If someone wanted to secretly attack one of the sentry soldiers, the other soldier could immediately detect the anomaly. At this time, one of the soldiers seemed a bit tired and unconsciously yawned. Standing guard was not as easy as imagined. Constantly maintaining vigilance would quickly deplete one's energy. But fortunately, their mission was about to be completed soon. As agreed, the employer coming to pick up the goods was about to arrive. And so far, everything had been so peaceful and quiet. It seemed that today could also end smoothly and completely. The soldier glanced at the time. There were 10 minutes left until the agreed time. And just in that instant when the soldier's eyes deviated from the center of his vision, his peripheral vision seemed to catch something flashing past from opposite him. The soldier immediately looked over vigilantly, only to find that the other soldier standing opposite him was gone, only leaving behind the 4 terrifying claw marks on the concrete pillar behind him. The soldier immediately realized something was wrong. But before his brain could issue a command, his head was completely separated from his body. The 2 soldiers lost their lives in just a brief moment, but did not make any sound. The other soldiers in the warehouse were still completely unaware that an uninvited guest had arrived at the stronghold. But these 2 soldiers were only the beginning. 2, 3, 4. One soldier after another had their lives taken without any awareness. As more and more soldiers fell, the 6th Street Gang soldiers finally realized something was wrong. Enemy. Instantly, the alarm sounded. All the 6th Street Gang soldiers entered a state of alert, trying to find this sudden intruder. But even so, it was futile. The killer's actions did not stop. In the horrified gaze of one soldier, his comrade beside him was cut in half before his eyes. Gushing blood splattered on his body without restraint. And he still hadn't been able to see what the killer looked like. The 6th Street Gang soldiers in the warehouse were being drastically reduced at a terrifying speed. The 6th Street Gang minor leader at the stronghold had no way to deal with this situation and could only order all soldiers to gather together. Otherwise, if this continued, none of the soldiers in the entire warehouse would escape death. In the middle of the warehouse, all the 6th Street Gang soldiers gathered around the stolen goods. This was the most open position in the entire warehouse, with the clearest field of vision. Although a few more gang soldiers met their end during the gathering process, but they still successfully preserved the remaining combat strength. At this time, the number of 6th Street Gang soldiers had already been halved. But fortunately, as they completed their gathering, the terrifying killer did not appear again. For a time, the atmosphere in the entire warehouse seemed very strange. All the 6th Street Gang soldiers gathered together, holding their weapons and guarding their surroundings. They controlled their movements, not making any unnecessary noise, afraid of covering up crucial information about the killer's appearance. In this tense atmosphere, the killer who killed invisibly seemed to have disappeared, showing no movement for a long time. As if the deaths of those soldiers just now were merely an illusion. But just as many soldiers thought their gathering had been effective and that guy wouldn't dare to appear again. In the darkness in the distance, a blue light suddenly lit up. The blue light gradually became visible, clearly seen in the darkness. Now all the 6th Street Gang soldiers saw clearly. It was a pair of sharp claws flashing with blue light. Above the claws were 2 rows of sharp beast teeth also emitting blue light. Before the 6th Street Gang soldiers could react, the owner of these claws and fangs leapt towards them, instantly pouncing on one of the soldiers. Claws swung, blood splattered. Right before the eyes of many 6th Street Gang soldiers, their comrade was cut into several pieces. And at this moment, under the lights, these 6th Street Gang soldiers finally saw the full appearance of this terrifying monster for the first time. A black and white fully metallic body, with no trace of any biological tissue visible, making it impossible to tell if it was the result of cybernetic modification or simply a machine. A beastly physique like a vicious wolf, sharp teeth and claws flashing with blue light, and the tail swaying behind it, also made them realize that what they were facing seemed not to be a person, but an unknown, terrifying killing monster they had never heard of. Open black lens bracket. Source program. Apocalypse, Warwick close black lens bracket open black lens bracket from the Source Program universe, a super weapon created by Source Program Company. It is the initial version of Source Program, Annihilation, but unlike Annihilation, which is a product of the fusion of human bodies and various beast genes. Source Program. Apocalypse is an ultimate weapon created simply by weaponizing ferocious beasts. Warwick was created to serve slaughter. It is a pure killing machine. This beast-based modification precisely achieved this point. It has no rationality, only filled with beastly instincts, violent and wild, and difficult to control. And it was precisely when Source Program was testing Warwick's control program that it was disturbed by a group of uninvited guests, allowing Warwick, this beast, to break free from the control of Source Program Company. Under this module, Warwick's control system has been perfected, and it is absolutely loyal to the host, close black lens bracket. This was the gift Luauchi gave to these troublesome guys. A hunting feast from the top killing machine, Warwick. Chapter 104 6th Street Gang Massacre. Damn it, kill this son of a bitch. Open fire. The soldier died tragically under its claws. And the other 6th Street Gang soldiers around also immediately opened fire wildly at the monster Warwick. For a time, the entire warehouse was filled with the sound of gunfire and the smell of gunpowder. Bullets poured towards Warwick, clanging against its body, but failing to leave even the slightest mark. Luauchi had summoned Warwick, and naturally, he had also modified it with adamantium alloy, allowing its already extremely powerful defense and destructive power to reach an even more terrifying level. And that pair of adamantium alloy claws, combined with Warwick's own laser claw blades, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say they were indestructible. If you have any doubts about this, you can consult our Mr. Marvin. He should have enough say in this matter. Facing the overwhelming barrage of gunfire, Warwick raised its wolf head and let out an earth-shattering howl. The mechanical and electronic sound made it sound even more terrifying. The massive sound wave even drowned out the gunfire, and was clearly audible to pedestrians on the streets near the warehouse. At the same time, a strong energy wave erupted from Warwick's body, spreading outwards and sweeping through the entire warehouse, knocking all the soldiers surrounding Warwick to the ground. As the wolf howl ended, the blue glow on Warwick's body had completely turned red. At this moment, it truly resembled a berserk bloodthirsty killing beast. And this was precisely Warwick's true killing form. Undoubtedly, This was another unequal killing game. Even if the 6th Street Gang had more people, it would only mean Warwick had to swing its claws a couple more times. The entire warehouse instantly turned into a slaughterhouse. Various severed limbs flew about, and blood covered the entire ground. Warwick bathed in this pool of blood, with blood constantly dripping from its body, like a demon that had just crawled out of hell. After dealing with these 6th Street Gang guys, Warwick didn't bother with the goods in the warehouse. With its claws on the ground, it ran out of the warehouse in a beast-like posture. There were more targets waiting for it to deal with. It wasn't an agent, its only mission was killing. Warwick's mind only needed to know who to kill, what kind of people to kill. Everything else was completely left to instinct. Are all the dead people gang members? 6th Street Gang stronghold, NCPD arrived on the scene and sealed it off. The intense gunfire and terrifying roars attracted reports from Night City citizens. And the NCPD, rarely, arrived on the scene in a very short time and discovered the tragic state of the 6th Street Gang stronghold. No one in the entire stronghold survived, but all the dead were gang members, and the killer didn't attack civilians, so it shouldn't be Cyberpunk, just a gang shootout with a higher death count. Count the number of dead and pack up. Soon, the NCPD agent who had investigated the situation made a judgment. Although many people died, they were all gang members, so the NCPD naturally didn't need to bother. But just as the NCPD thought this was just an ordinary gang shootout, when the matter was considered over, Warwick's killing was far from finished. On another street in Santo Domingo, a sedan was speeding along, weaving through traffic. The driver's attire had distinct 6th Street Gang characteristics. It was obvious he was one of the 6th Street Gang members. At this moment, he was frantically sweating cold, with a hint of panic in his eyes. Just moments ago, he had personally witnessed a monster charge into their stronghold, tearing the gang members inside into shreds. And no matter how they resisted, how they attacked, they couldn't stop the monster's killing pace. But luckily, when the incident happened, he happened to be sitting in his car smoking. Knowing he was in trouble, he nimbly started the car and escaped. Fortunately, there were enough members in the stronghold, and the monster, having a field day killing, didn't seem to notice him and didn't follow. But just as he was congratulating himself on saving his skin, suddenly, there was a dull thud from his car roof. As if something had jumped onto the roof. Hearing this sound, the expression of this 6th Street Gang soldier became panicked once again. You must know that his car was moving at high speed. From the moment he fled the stronghold until now, he hadn't let up on the accelerator at all. If his driving skills weren't good enough, he would have crashed and died several times already. And now this monster could actually catch up in this situation. How could he not be shocked? But no matter how surprised and uncomprehending he was, it couldn't change the established fact and his damned fate. From this moment on, his death knell had already been rung. The claws tore through the sheet metal roof without resistance, also taking the life of this 6th Street Gang soldier. In the end, this cowardly 6th Street Gang soldier still couldn't escape Warwick's clutches. Perhaps trying to escape from Warwick's grasp was an impossible delusion to begin with. From the moment it became its prey, no matter where the prey ran, it could find it. The prey's tracks would be nowhere to hide in its eyes. There would always be a moment when it would catch up and tear it to shreds. Warwick's hunt continued to unfold in Santo Domingo, and the targets were all members of the 6th Street Gang. In just this short night, several 6th Street Gang strongholds were completely slaughtered by Warwick, and this also caused quite a stir in Night City. The next day. Good morning, Night City. What's today's death lottery number? I bet you absolutely can't guess. Because so far, the NCPD hasn't been able to distinguish how many 6th Street Gang members' bodies there are from the piles and piles of body parts. This is all thanks to the tragic gang shootout that happened in Santo Domingo last night, where multiple 6th Street Gang strongholds had no survivors. I think this might be the most sensational gang tragedy in history. Undoubtedly, this tragic incident received considerable attention in Night City. Overnight, the 6th Street Gang was severely weakened, and yet they had no understanding of the perpetrator behind this incident. The entire 6th Street Gang was filled with fear and anger. But what made them despair was that the 6th Street Gang's personnel were drastically reduced due to the impact of this incident. And the Valentinos on the other side naturally wouldn't miss such an opportunity. They began deploying forces to seize the 6th Street Gang's territory. The 6th Street Gang is now facing both the threat from the unknown monster and the suppression from the Valentinos, reaching a precarious state. If they cannot overcome this difficult hurdle, then the 6th Street Gang can declare its complete disappearance in Night City. And the 6th Street Gang, unable to protect itself, naturally had no energy left to worry about Ascension technology. Chapter 105 The Beast is out of the cage. Corporation Square. Military Technology Building. Special Operations Team against Ascension Technology. This is a recently established team by Military Technology. Their mission is naturally to gather information about Ascension Technology and research countermeasures against them. Military Technology has given this team extensive authorization support, clearly showing how much they value Ascension Technology. And the 6th Street Gang's commission also originated from them. But the 6th Street Gang, on which high hopes were placed, disappointed Military Technology. The 6th Street Gang, severely weakened overnight, was too busy with its own affairs, and this collaboration targeting Ascension Technology came to nothing. All of this was caused by the monster that suddenly appeared last night. And as of now, Military Technology is completely clueless about the origin of this monster. This guy is clearly intentionally targeting the 6th Street Gang, and the 6th Street Gang just started making moves against Ascension Technology. Is there a connection here? The team leader of the Special Operations Team looked at the intelligence regarding the 6th Street Gang's tragedy and murmured. Military Technology had just begun collaborating with the 6th Street Gang, having them deal with Ascension Technology. As a result, they encountered such a tragedy, making it difficult not to suspect Ascension Technology as the mastermind. But then the team leader shook his head. It doesn't seem like it either. This guy just kills people. He didn't even touch the goods in the strongholds. If it's connected to Ascension Technology, it doesn't seem to make sense. The team leader had a headache. The intelligence showed that this monster was specifically hunting and killing members of the 6th Street Gang. Besides the strongholds involved in the robbery of Ascension Technology, several other strongholds were also attacked. Furthermore, the goods they had stolen were not moved. If this monster was sent by Ascension Technology, it seems illogical for them to ignore the goods. And the most crucial point is that the cybernetic enhancements on this monster, and the terrifying power it displayed, are simply not something Ascension Technology could produce. One must know that in their eyes, Ascension Technology, apart from a few mercenary-turned guys in the Special Operations Department who have some fame and strength in Night City, only their pharmaceutical technology is relatively outstanding. They don't even have their own security force, even their regular transport teams are outsourced Arasaka Security. It can be said that Arasaka put in a lot of effort to protect this collaborating enterprise. This is also a point of headache for Military Technology. If it weren't for Arasaka's presence, dealing with Ascension Technology wouldn't be this difficult. For a company that could only attach itself to Arasaka by relying on soldier serum, no one would believe it could produce this kind of technological monster that even Military Technology finds shocking. If one were to insist on a connection between the two, then the possibility of this monster coming from Arasaka is even higher. So whose work is this? Arasaka. Is Arasaka using the incident where Ascension Technology was robbed by the 6th Street Gang to test this monster on the 6th Street Gang? After thinking for a moment, the team leader felt this might be the greatest possibility. With such advanced weapon technology, there are only a few weapon technology companies in the entire Night City that can produce it. First, excluding themselves, then the remaining Arasaka and Kongdao are both possible. But no matter who it is, this monster is a threat to Military Technology, just like the Cyberpunk before. At this moment, the display screen in front showed scenes of Warwick's continuous killing, some captured by surveillance, and some recorded by the victim's braindance recording equipment. And these bloody and brutal scenes increasingly brought a sense of crisis to Military Technology. First the Cyberpunk, then this monster. It seems that the major corporations in Night City are all developing rapidly under the push of certain forces, except for themselves. Just as Military Technology was suspecting large corporations like Arasaka and Kongdao regarding the origin of Warwick, other corporations in Night City were equally clueless about Warwick. They were all speculating whose subordinate was so formidable. For a time, Warwick's appearance caused undercurrents among the major corporations, with various intelligence departments operating in quick succession, attempting to find out where this monster came from. And at this very moment, the culprit behind all of this was undergoing debugging in Ascension Technology's laboratory. In the Ascension Technology laboratory, Warwick was connected with various interfaces. Luoqi and Lao Wei were analyzing its combat data from last night. At this moment, Warwick did not have the same killing machine-like frenzy as last night. Although its appearance was still terrifying, its quiet squatting posture made it look somewhat safe, barely. The control system is very successful, with no issues. Target acquisition was also very accurate, and there were no friendly fire incidents. Warwick did very well. Luoqi was very satisfied with Warwick's performance. At this moment, Marvin, who had been standing behind the two, secretly observing, heard Luoqi's words. The display screen on his chest turned into a confused expression, and he muttered softly. Hearing Mr. L say that, is it actually a good dog? I thought it was a bad dog. Marvin was in conflict. Was it the bad dog that scratched him or the good dog praised by Luauchi? On the other side, Luauchi and Lao Wei were not paying attention to the little drama happening with Marvin, they were just focused on Warwick. What a fierce fellow. What do you plan to have it do next? Deal with military technology? Lao Wei asked. Not in a hurry. If we deal with military technology right now, it's too targeted and easily arouses suspicion. Let it cause some trouble in Night City first. I believe by then, military technology's people will find it themselves. Luauchi shook his head. Currently, no one in Night City knows Warwick's origin. Luauchi naturally doesn't want them to connect Warwick and Ascension technology. But he won't let Warwick just stay in the laboratory like this. It would be a pity if Warwick, having been redeemed, doesn't get to fully utilize its potential. Since that's the case, let it continue killing in Night City. As long as it is active enough in Night City, military technology will eventually have ideas about it. Then, igniting this beast will be enough to give military technology a hard time. Open black lens bracket. Killing target setting. Scavenger, extreme criminals, cyberpunk, enemies attempting to apprehend it, close black lens bracket. Luauchi set Warwick's killing targets. Since it's going to cause trouble, might as well clean up these disgusting scavengers. After all, killing anyone is still killing. As for other extreme criminals and cyberpunk, deal with them if encountered. Of course, Luauchi's top priority target for it is still Scavenger. Other targets are just secondary. Hunting Scavenger is the true objective. And if corporations want to send people to apprehend it, Warwick will naturally include them in its targets as well. Thus, a beast causing chaos in Night City was truly unleashed. Chapter 106, Night City Horror Tales. Have you heard? That guy who's been causing such a stir lately, do you think he'll find his way here? Are you talking about that mechanical werewolf? I've heard of it. They say it specifically targets people in our line of work. Hey, if you ask me, it's not as mystical as they make it out to be. I bet they pissed someone off and brought a killer down on themselves. In an apartment, two scavengers were busy disassembling a corpse on an operating table. As they worked, the two men started chatting. The topic was the terrifying mechanical werewolf that had recently appeared in Night City. This werewolf first appeared during a massacre of the 6th Street Gang. But lately, scavenger teams have been falling victim to it. By now, several days had passed since the 6th Street Gang tragedy. Every night, that terrifying werewolf would go out, creating killing incidents in Night City. And the targets were precisely them, the scavengers. Facing the topic brought up by his companion, this scavenger seemed rather skeptical of such a horror legend. In Night City, who would bother the scavengers for no reason? Even the NCPD couldn't be bothered with them, so could there really be some righteous person trying to eradicate the scavengers? Obviously, such a fantastical thing was simply unrealistic in Night City. So this scavenger just thought they had taken some dirty job that caused this werewolf to come knocking. No, you haven't seen the scene. See that pile of cyberware over there? That's what we just salvaged from another group's apartment in the Reeves area. I went there with others to clean up, and I saw those guys were all reduced to scattered pieces. Even many pieces of cyberware were cleanly cut off. If it comes for us, I wouldn't even know how to fight back. Unlike the other scavenger's optimism, this scavenger's face clearly showed some worry and fear. He had personally witnessed the horrific state of another scavenger hideout. Although as a scavenger, he had a strong tolerance for bloody scenes. But thinking that such a scene might happen to himself, he could no longer face it with such optimism. Seeing the guy's scared look, the other scavenger scoffed. What are you scared of? It's hard to say if it'll even come. If it really does, maybe after we take care of it, all that good stuff on it will be enough for us to earn more money than we can spend in a lifetime. Clearly, this was a fearless guy. But his fearlessness didn't make him truly immortal. The two men's conversation didn't affect them as they worked on the corpse in their hands. But just as they stopped talking and focused on their work, in the now quiet operating room, a strange sound, mixed with electronic effects, could faintly be heard. The scavenger who had been wary of the werewolf legend immediately sensed that something was wrong. Did you hear something? Could that thing be here? The scavenger swallowed, saying nervously, what's the big deal? Don't scare yours. Before he could finish, a sharp claw ripped through the scavenger's body, using facts to tell him that he wasn't scaring himself. But the terrifying killing machine, the scavenger killer, Warwick, had truly arrived. The guy who had just been bragging about taking care of Warwick was cut into pieces under its claws, unable to last even a second. Facing the sudden appearance of Warwick, the other scavenger was completely terrified and had forgotten how to fight back. The legend of Warwick had brought him immense pressure these past few days, and witnessing Warwick's brutal methods firsthand had turned that pressure into terror. Now watching his companion being torn apart before his eyes, he had completely given up hope. Warwick didn't spare him because of his stupor either. Following the same pattern, it sent him to meet the Cyber King of Hell. Just like that, another scavenger stronghold was turned into a blood and flesh inferno by Warwick. Warwick's slaughter of the scavengers did not stop. One after another, scavengers died at Warwick's hands. All the scavengers in Night City were in fear for their lives, afraid that they would be next. Luauchi also didn't let Warwick kill the scavengers non-stop. Instead, he controlled the pace, dealing with these scavengers little by little. Otherwise, with Warwick's hunting efficiency, the entire population of scavengers in Night City would be extinct in just a few days. As for the purpose of doing this, it was to make these scavengers live in this invisible fear, knowing that one day this monster would find them and kill them, and there was nothing they could do about it. Making them visualize themselves being torn to shreds by Warwick whenever they thought about the dirty deeds they had done. Facing this situation, many scavengers chose to lie low, temporarily halting their activities to prevent Warwick from coming to their doorstep. But unfortunately, such actions would not be effective. No matter how they disguised themselves or tried to sever their ties to past scavenger activities, they couldn't escape Warwick's hunt. It was like a soul-devouring nightmare for all scavengers in Night City, lingering and inescapable. Until one day they were swallowed by this nightmare and died completely. And such events caused a huge sensation in Night City. The NCPD had to deal with the mess left behind by Warwick every day. Facing such a terrifying entity, the NCPD was also having a major headache. Warwick killed relentlessly in Night City, with thousands dying at his hands. Logically, the occurrence of such a situation should be considered a major public security incident in Night City. But the problem was, this guy was only killing scavengers. The NCPD was very clear about what kind of existence scavengers were. They were like the foul maggots of this city, hiding in the dark places of Night City, constantly harassing its residents. And the NCPD had never had a good solution for these guys. After painstakingly dealing with one nest, another would quickly emerge in another corner of Night City. Now that someone was helping the NCPD clear out these annoying guys, they were naturally extremely pleased. It's worth noting that during the period Warwick was active, the public security in Night City was a level better than before. And so far, there had been no instances of Warwick attacking law-abiding citizens of Night City. Currently, throughout Night City, there were no traces of scavenger activity to be found. Even though many criminal activities were still rampant in Night City, being even slightly better than before was already quite rare. Although there were still many Night City citizens who considered Warwick an extremely terrifying potential threat and hoped the NCPD would control him as soon as possible. But most citizens were applauding this. And among them, besides the scavengers who were about to become vengeful spirits, the most vocal opponents were likely the black market doctors who had lost their supply chain of cheap cyberware. Chapter 107 March. The legendary deeds of Warwick still continued in Night City. Nobody knew where it came from. The NCPD also chose not to waste financial and human resources to provoke such a terrifying existence. While other companies in Night City were extremely curious about this guy who had recently turned everything upside down, most of them remained in a wait-and-see state. The first to lose patience and act was military technology. Military technology set up a large number of armed forces in ambush near a scavenger stronghold. In the end, Warwick arrived at this scavenger stronghold as they wished, entering their encirclement. But the people from military technology seemed not to have clearly recognized the horror of this monster. Even though they dispatched their most elite team, facing this killing machine, they were still defeated. Even the top hackers had no way to break through its network defenses, and couldn't even parse its system. Having lost their advantage in the network aspect, it was the same on the physical level. Military technology used their most advanced destructive weapons, but still couldn't penetrate its defenses. Instead, their thick and solid armor defenses were easily torn apart like tofu under Warwick's sharp claws. Military technology lost terribly in this battle, just like when they faced Cyberpunk not long ago. Even more powerless than before. And after this incident, Warwick was no longer just hunting scavengers. Occasionally, it would also attack military technology's troops, and had even broken into their industrial park, leaving freely after a massacre. For a time, the entire Night City was shaken. After all, Dealing with those scavengers and gang members was completely different from dealing with military technology. It was also from this time that the people of Night City truly recognized Warwick's terrifying combat power. Throughout the entire underground mercenary world, rumors began to spread about this unknown, powerful creature that resembled both man and wolf. Warwick had clearly become a true legend of terror in Night City. And after the incident where Warwick attacked military technology, Warwick's origins also became even more confusing and shrouded in mist. Military technology, good for you, Arasaka, this thing is indeed your masterpiece. Otherwise, how could it be chasing and attacking us? Wasn't one round of Cyberpunk attacking us not enough before? Now you're releasing such a terrifying monster to target us. This is going too far. I will never coexist with you. Arasaka. What? This thing went to deal with military technology. I thought this thing was released by military technology. Good, good. I was originally afraid that just as we finished creating Cyberpunk, you would bring out such a terrifying monster. It seems it was a false alarm. But I didn't expect it. Kong Dao, you've been hiding so deep, you've even created armed experimental subjects of this level. It seems I underestimated you. Kong Dao. Oh. The appearance of Warwick attracted the attention of the major corporations in Night City. It also slowed down military technology's targeting of Ascension technology. With significantly reduced pressure, Ascension technology once again entered a stage of stable development. 3 months later. Edge of Chungbei Industrial Zone. Ascension Technology Spaceport. This was the latest space base expanded by Ascension technology. As for this new trick Ascension technology came up with, the citizens and corporations of Night City were already used to it. They were just a little surprised that Ascension technology had actually achieved what was mentioned in the press conference. Although so far they hadn't seen Ascension technology produce any results. But perhaps Ascension technology was just foolish and rich, since it wasn't their money being spent, they were naturally happy to watch Ascension technology's spectacle. After all, Ascension technology and Arasaka were cooperating very closely now, and having secured a large number of orders from Arasaka, it was not an exaggeration to say they were rolling in money. As for Ascension technology's crazy expansion into other fields, Arasaka didn't say anything. Let them make a fuss, as long as Arasaka got the serum, Ascension technology could do whatever it wanted. If they wanted to build robots, then build them. If they wanted to be astronauts, then be them. In the past few months, Arasaka had completely suppressed military technology with the serum. As for this important ally, as long as he didn't mess up and go bankrupt, Arasaka was too lazy to bother with him. After all, in Arasaka's view, everything Ascension technology did was just small-scale dabbling. An enterprise without corresponding experience expanding into multiple fields simultaneously would most likely end up with nothing to show for it. And this was exactly in Arasaka's interest. Waiting until Ascension technology suffered setbacks in these areas or even affected the company's foundation, Arasaka could then use the struggling Ascension technology to gain further benefits and seek greater initiative in this cooperation. Therefore, facing this partner who loved to mess around, Arasaka fully supported their actions. They even publicly praised Ascension technology in the media as a highly innovative and creative enterprise, hoping they would continue to move forward, constantly working towards the company's goals, and develop into a comprehensive technology enterprise. To outsiders, this was a scene of friendly exchange and mutual support between cooperating companies. Everyone lamented Arasaka's emphasis on this ally. But Arasaka and Ascension Technology, who were at the center of this incident, both knew the truth. Arasaka said a lot of supportive words, but secretly didn't provide even a little actual support. As a truly top-tier technology company, Arasaka was a world-class entity in both the robotics and aerospace fields. Yet, they never provided Ascension technology with technical support in these two areas. In short, I say I support you, but in reality, I can't wait for you to fail in these areas. The more miserable the failure, the better. Of course, although Arasaka hoped Ascension technology would achieve nothing in these areas, they didn't deliberately sabotage Ascension technology's development. After all, Arasaka was still very dependent on Ascension technology, at least until they got the formula. Therefore, Ascension technology was also able to develop with peace of mind in these areas. What Arasaka probably didn't expect was that Ascension technology didn't need their support at all. It could even be said that Ascension technology's technology in this area was already leagues ahead of Arasaka. The perspective returns to the Ascension technology spaceport. The spaceport had just been completed recently, but the entire spaceport had already become very lively. One after another, Marvin robots constantly shuttled through the spaceport, bringing a different kind of vitality to it. Luoqi arrived here, accompanied by Lucy. The two walked leisurely on this brand new Ascension technology building. How is it? This spaceport? Luoqi turned his head and asked Lucy. Chapter 108 Space, very well. Facing Luoqi's question, Lucy replied with a slight smile. She had once stood on the rooftop of her apartment, gazing at the distant rocket launch base. Every time she saw those rockets ascend, Lucy felt deeply moved. She had always yearned for space, and although the tension of escaping this place was gone, that dream buried in her heart had not extinguished. Now that Ascension technology had its own space base, Lucy was naturally pleased. Although it didn't seem quite the same as the launch base in her memory. Compared to a rocket launch base, this place seemed more like an Air Force base. Lucy didn't know much about these things, but she didn't care too much either. Whatever Luoqi wanted to do, whatever field he wanted to develop in, all she had to do was support him. Let's go, I'll show you around here. Luoqi took Lucy's hand and led her on a stroll through the base. Lucy quietly watched the scenes unfolding at the launch site, letting Luoqi lead her. Soon, Luoqi led Lucy to a corner of the launch site and stopped, not going any further. Seeing Luoqi stop, Lucy looked at him with some curiosity, then Luoqi spoke. Lucy, do you still remember the promise I made to you before? Luoqi's words were soft, yet they exploded in Lucy's mind like thunder, causing her heart to tremble violently. Luoqi might have made more than one promise to Lucy. But here at the space base, the first thing Lucy thought of were the words Luoqi had said to her on the apartment rooftop. He said he would take her to the moon, that once he had a spaceship, he would take her on a journey through space, to many, many planets, for a space trip. At the time, she thought Luoqi was very naive and very cute. She thought he was just saying it casually to make her happy. But later, he founded Ascension technology, which gave her a glimmer of hope. Could it be that one day what he said could really come true? And as Ascension technology grew stronger, Lucy felt more and more that all of this might happen one day. But she had never mentioned this matter to Luoqi. She would not influence Luoqi's decisions, much less childishly ask Luoqi to make changes or invest too much energy just to fulfill her past dream. Although going to the moon was no longer her lifelong goal since the threat from Arasaka was gone, how could she easily forget that beautiful wish that was once deeply hidden in her heart and lingered in her dreams? She had just kept it buried in her heart and hadn't brought it up again. Now that Luoqi brought it up again, Lucy's heart involuntarily began to beat faster. Considering where they were, Lucy had already vaguely guessed the reason why Luoqi was saying these words. Today, Luoqi brought her here, and looking at the scene of the base, Lucy had also fantasized that Luoqi would say this to her, saying that he would take her on a space trip. She hoped all of this was true. Hoped that Luoqi could really fulfill that promise, and hoped that they could have a beautiful and romantic interstellar journey, and Luoqi's subsequent words confirmed Lucy's guess. I said I would take you to the moon one day. I said that once I have a spaceship, we will take a space trip and go to many, many planets. I asked you to give me some time, and now, the time is right, Luoqi said softly. And along with Luoqi's words, a huge gate behind them slowly rose under the control of electricity. A spaceship that only existed in science fiction works slowly appeared from behind the scene. If you didn't say this was a spaceship that could roam the universe, perhaps normal people would think it was just a military fighter jet. Because it didn't have a huge rocket, nor was it standing vertically on a launch platform. Instead, it was parked on the ground just like a fighter jet, and even its shape was so similar. All the technology currently on the market does not have the technology or vehicle that can escape the first cosmic velocity and fly into space in this form. So no matter who came, they would not believe that this was a spaceship. But Lucy believed it, because she knew Luoqi too well. She knew that no matter what astonishing thing Luoqi brought out, it would be within reason. And this spaceship was exactly what Luoqi had exchanged through the system. A spaceship from the deep space universe. As a space exploration game, the star field covered by the map of deep space can be said to be infinitely vast. And the space navigation technology inside has naturally developed to the extreme. It can not only take off and land vertically, easily escaping planetary gravity and flying into space. It can also achieve light speed pulses within star systems and jumps across star systems. Furthermore, its package's interstellar travel suit has a life support system, a harsh environment protection system, a resource collection system, and a planetary exploration analysis system. It can be said that no matter where you want to go, or which planet you want to land on, the technology from deep space can provide you with the best help. Perhaps the spaceships in deep space are not outstanding in terms of combat, but if you use them for interstellar exploration and travel, they are definitely the best choice. Looking at the scene before her, Lucy had already covered her mouth, choking up. Tears inexplicably flowed from the corners of her eyes. She wanted to control her emotions, but she could not resist the surging happiness. Finally, she simply let the tears of emotion flow down and tightly hugged Luauchi. He had never forgotten my dream, and he had never forgotten his promise. Lucy, who had not shed a tear when she decided to dedicate everything to Luauchi, was now filled with tears, leaning deeply into Luoki's arms. Luauchi held Lucy in his arms, gently patted her, smiled, and said, "I always remember, I have always been here." After a long time, Lucy finally calmed down her throbbing heart. Gently wiping away her tears, a smile returned to Lucy's face. "Come, Lucy, let's go to the moon together." Taking Lucy's small hand again, Luauchi led her to the spaceship. He helped Lucy put on the astronaut suit, and the moment the helmet was put on, the suit's system was activated. Open black lens bracket. Life support system. Normal close black lens bracket open black lens bracket protection system. Normal close black lens bracket open black lens bracket scanner. Normal close black lens bracket open black lens bracket current planet climate. Warm and pleasant close black lens bracket open black lens bracket current planet resources. Abundant close black lens bracket open black lens bracket current planet gravity. Normal close black lens bracket. Lucy excitedly looked at the interface in the astronaut helmet and the system's broadcast. She was already looking forward to the moment she would step onto the moon. And Luauchi also held Lucy's hand and sat in the spaceship's cockpit. A romantic space journey belonging to the two of them had officially begun. Chapter 109. On the moon, Luauchi and Lucy both sat down in the ship's cockpit. Although deep space is a solitary exploration of the universe by one person, causing the ships inside to be single-person use with only one cockpit seat. But the mod system helped Luauchi solve this problem. As the two sat down, the cockpit door above their heads slowly closed. Luauchi looked at the various instruments and control panels in the cockpit, with a hint of excitement on his face. Although he had flown countless ships in games, this was his first time flying one in reality. Luauchi was also curious about space, as he had never been there before. What he had said to Lucy before was naturally true, and he had always looked forward to traveling in space. Collecting his thoughts, Luauchi placed his hands on the ship's control panel. Although the ships in deep space are powerful, their control methods are not complicated. With the help of the usage teaching chip that came with the ship mod, Luauchi quickly mastered all the ship's operations. After handing the chip to Lucy and letting her learn how to operate it as well, Luauchi looked at Lucy, and the two exchanged a smile. Pushing the lever, the ship left the ground and hovered in the low sky. Luauchi activated the ship's stealth field device, which was added from the system. Although the stealth effect would not be ideal when the ship's speed was too high, it was enough to avoid being noticed by others during takeoff. Luauchi first took Lucy to experience the feeling of the ship flying in the air. Once Lucy had adapted, Luauchi skillfully raised the ship's angle, making it go straight up, increased the power of the thrusters, and began to rush out of the Earth. The ship's speed was fast, and it broke through the atmosphere and reached outer space in no time. This was Lucy's first time observing the Earth from this perspective. Although the company's endless development of resources and numerous wars had deeply damaged the land of this planet, from the perspective of space, this planet was still so beautiful. Turning their gaze from the Earth to space, the two could now see many artificial satellites and space stations outside the Earth. These things were naturally the work of major companies, and human space station technology was already quite mature. These space stations were equipped with gravity control technology, allowing people to feel as if they were on Earth. Many companies had placed important laboratories, medical institutions, and international councils on space stations located in space. Not only that, but these companies had also done considerable development on the moon. Not only could people travel to the moon, but as long as you had enough money, they could even let you settle down on the moon. But even with such technology, these companies still had a long way to go before reaching the stage of interstellar colonization. Luauchi did not let his gaze linger on the space stations from the companies for too long. After all, this was not his travel destination. He glanced at the 3D galaxy map on the ship's control panel. At this time, all the planets in the entire solar system had been scanned by the system and were displayed on this map. Finding the location of the moon on the other side of the Earth, Luauchi started the ship's engine and flew towards their first destination. Open black lens bracket. Barren planet close black lens bracket open black lens bracket planet resources. Before close black lens bracket approaching the moon, the ship's scanner provided the scanned planet data. Without much hesitation, under Lucis' expectant gaze, Luochi controlled the ship and entered the moon. Compared to the Earth, the moon was not large. And while orbiting the moon, the two also saw many bases of companies on the moon. There were indeed traces of settlers among them, but the scale was not large. Avoiding these bases, Luochi took Lucy to an uninhabited area and activated the ship's landing procedure. The landing procedure started, and the ship landed smoothly on the moon. The hatch opened, and the two left the cockpit, stepping onto another planet besides the Earth for the first time. As soon as they got off the ship, Lucy excitedly felt the unique gravity of the moon. It was similar to her experience in the Braindance at that time, but it was much more real. Haha, this is the real moon, it's so good. Lucy laughed happily. Just like in the Braindance at that time, Lucy proactively took Luochi's hand and led him to bounce around on the moon. And Luochi, seeing Lucy so happy, also smiled. Soon, after wandering for a long time, the two found a random spot and sat down together. At this time, the sky above them was exactly that unique and beautiful blue planet. Lucy just quietly looked at the blue star that occupied a large part of the sky in front of her, enjoying this rare beauty. She had never thought that one day she could feel all of this so realistically. Such a happy scene even made her doubt if she was dreaming. The dream of the past was so real in its distance, and the reality of today was so dreamlike in its happiness. After a long time, Lucy finally emerged from these complex thoughts. She turned her head to look at Luochi, who was leaning closely beside her. At this time, Luochi was also looking at the beautiful blue star, wondering what he was thinking. Noticing Lucis' gaze, Luochi also turned his head. Their eyes met. Suddenly, a wave of psychokinesis erupted from Lucy, forming a psychic barrier that enveloped the two of them. The two of them almost simultaneously and tacitly removed their helmets. On this dreamy moon, under this beautiful blue star, the two of them kissed without hesitation. After a long time, so where is the next destination? Lucy put her hands behind her back and looked at Luochi with some anticipation. She seemed to be ready to go to the next travel destination. Hearing Lucy's question, Luochi was a little surprised. Aren't you going to stay on the moon for a while longer? Luochi thought that Lucy would want to play on the moon for a while longer. After all, she had yearned for the moon so much before, but Lucy shook her head and smiled slightly. No need, the experience on the moon is enough, I'm more looking forward to exploring more places with you now. Coming to the moon in such a relaxed capacity now, Lucy's happiness was mainly because she had finally fulfilled that dream, or rather obsession, that was once out of her reach. And this short moment of the moon trip was actually enough. After actually going to the moon, she found that besides being quiet enough, it didn't seem that interesting. And she no longer needed a quiet world of one person, what she wanted was a world of two people with Luochi. She knew that Luochi wanted to see more planets, and she also wanted to accompany him quickly on this interstellar journey. Chapter 110 Cosmic Resources. After experiencing the moon, Luochi and Lucy went to experience other planets in the solar system. Unlike the moon, which still had many traces of human activity, the other planets were truly desolate and uninhabited. Luochi and Lucy arrived on these planets, feeling their different geology and climate while using the scanner on their exploration suits to scan for various minerals on the planets. It was as if they were truly exploring deep space. And the two who had explored the solar system also set their sights on places beyond the solar system. That was a place where humans in this world had never set foot, unknown and mysterious. And with the help of the spaceship's faster-than-light warp engine, Luochi could finally lift their veil. Soon, Luochi and Lucy left their footprints in places beyond the solar system. And these planets were even more bizarre and fantastical compared to those in the solar system. It was just a pity that Luochi crossed many star systems but did not find any planets with life. And those suitable paradise planets were also not found. But this was also within Luochi's expectations, as the universe was simply too vast, and finding a paradise among these planets was truly difficult. But Luochi was not without gains, many of the planets he explored had rich mineral resources. An unknown star system not far from the solar system. On the planet, Luochi landed the spaceship here. Open black lens bracket. Radiated planet close black lens bracket open black lens bracket planet climate. Occasional radiation storms close black lens bracket open black lens bracket planet resources. Abundant close black lens bracket stepping out of the spaceship cockpit, the scanner on the exploration suit activated, displaying the planet's information. At the same time, the protection system on the suit also activated, helping them resist the invasion of radiation from the planet. Clearly, this planet was filled with radiation, but this radiation was not strong, at least not reaching the level of extreme radiation storms. This was their first time landing on such a radiated planet. Lucy, standing beside him, curiously felt the different atmosphere of this planet. Unlike Lucy's curiosity, Luoqi was more excited about landing on this planet. Without hesitation, Luoqi opened the mineral scanning function on the suit's helmet. As he expected, this planet had a large amount of radioactive minerals. And these were exactly what Ascension technology currently needed. Many technological advancements required these radioactive materials, whether for energy or weapons. On Earth, the sources of these minerals were firmly monopolized by large corporations. For Ascension technology to obtain these mineral raw materials, it could be said to be extremely difficult. But the development of Ascension technology must have these materials. So Luoqi naturally set his sights beyond Earth. This was a place that humans had never developed, with endless resources. And Luoqi indeed found what he wanted here. Luoqi took out a tool from his suit that had a structure similar to a pistol. This was a multi-tool from deep space used for interstellar exploration, equipped with a mining beam for collecting resources, and it could also be fitted with weapon components to become a weapon. After activating the mining beam, a green beam of light would shoot out from the multi-tool. This beam could decompose most organic minerals and geological ores on the planet into molecules, which were then absorbed and stored in the exploration suit's backpack space. Of course, although the mining beam had strong collection capabilities, it was not used for mining metal ore deposits located inside the planet. To collect these mineral elements, another expansion component in the multi-tool was needed, the terrain manipulator. The terrain manipulator could change the planet's terrain, destroy it, and mine it. At the same time, it could also use stored material molecules to create terrain on the planet. It could be said to be a divine tool for exploring and developing planets. In cosmic exploration within the deep space environment, the basic unit of material raw materials had developed to the elemental molecule level. Under powerful synthesis technology, when collecting resources, one only needed to decompose the material into the most basic molecules and store them. When needed, these raw materials could then be synthesized into different items. And Luoqi, who had obtained this technology, also gained great convenience in the manufacturing of modular items. Following the analysis guidance from the helmet, Luoqi quickly found a uranium ore deposit nearby. Activating the terrain manipulator, Luoqi pointed the multi-tool at the ore deposit. Soon, piece after piece of ore was peeled off the planet by the terrain manipulator. Subsequently, these ores were gradually decomposed, and the uranium elements within were stored in Luoqi's backpack. Just like that, Luoqi mined his first batch of radioactive ore raw material. After collecting a bit of uranium ore, Luoqi did not continue mining. Instead, he simply explored the planet a bit more, recording its key data into the star map. Then, without staying too long, he took Lucy and continued their journey. After all, their main purpose was still traveling. Exploring mineral planets was just a side benefit. A massive interstellar exploration project could not rely solely on him. As for the mineral extraction on this planet, it would naturally be handled by Ascension Technologies' Marvin squad. After all, the minerals he needed were not just a small amount. Luoqi and Lucy's space journey could not continue indefinitely. After exploring the universe for a while longer, the two returned to the solar system. It turned out that interstellar exploration in reality was not as interesting as in games. After all, real planets were not like those in games, where each one had different wonderful creatures and plants. Most of these planets were desolate. So the exploration process was also very boring. Of course, the vast sea of stars was still very shocking, especially for Luoqi and Lucy, who were venturing into this part of space for the first time. This trip was still wonderful and pleasant. Earth. Night City. Ascension Technology Space Base. A hum of engines sounded. A spaceship that had just completed its space journey slowly landed. Luoqi and Lucy successively walked out of the spaceship cockpit. The wonderful journey ended, and they would continue to work hard to develop Ascension technology in this night city. However, from this moment on, Ascension Technology's goal was no longer limited to Night City. Although Night City was very prosperous, it was also very small and surrounded by wolves. Every move of Ascension Technology here affected those corporations. So Luoqi also decided to directly seek breakthroughs in the broader space. Skipping the international stage, skipping Earth, and choosing to directly step into space. Bringing a bit of dimensionality reduction strike shock to these corporations still playing in the mud on Earth. And Luoqi's space journey this time also took the first step in this plan. Chapter 111 Black Star Getting off the spaceship, Luauchi and Lucy said their goodbyes. Lucy didn't stay long, while Luauchi still had to carry out the next step of his plan here. After Lucy left, Luauchi prepared his equipment and boarded the spaceship alone. The spaceship's launch thruster activated. The pulse thruster activated. In just an instant, the spaceship Luauchi was piloting was already within the solar system. Using the pulse thruster to fly the spaceship away from Earth, Luauchi arrived at the edge of the solar system. The spaceship hovered in space, and Luauchi's attention was also focused on the system. As Luauchi redeemed a module, a ripple was stirred up in the cosmic space in front of the spaceship. After a brief fluctuation, a giant black sphere appeared in the universe. Open black lens bracket. Space anomaly close black lens bracket open black lens bracket a giant space station from the deep space universe. It is the hub connecting travelers in deep space. Unlike ordinary space stations, the space anomaly, in addition to having larger internal space, also possesses the ability to warp and move, allowing it to travel to other locations in the universe through warping. Close black lens bracket. This giant black sphere before him was the space anomaly Luauchi had redeemed. It was a giant cosmic space station. Luauchi also planned to use it as the true base for ascension technology in the universe. To develop into the universe, there must be a foothold within the universe, although Luauchi could choose to establish a new base on another planet. But the current ascension technology has not yet fully explored space, coupled with the fact that finding a habitable planet in space is incredibly difficult. So establishing a production base on another planet would be fine. But when it comes to establishing a base suitable as a headquarters, it is more appropriate on a space station. The space anomaly perfectly met this requirement. In appearance, the space anomaly was a giant black metallic sphere. Flying into the interior through the circular entrance on the sphere, one could see the vast space within the sphere. Although in deep space, the range of activity available to players within the space anomaly was not extensive. But beyond these areas, there was also a very large space. This space was sufficient for Luauchi to build a small city. It was more than enough to serve as the headquarters for ascension technology. Of course, the main reason Luauchi chose the space anomaly was its mobility, which other space stations did not possess. At the same time, the external defense capabilities of the space anomaly were also very strong. Although it wasn't equipped with offensive weapons, its giant metallic shell made it extremely sturdy. Who would refuse a base that is sturdy, large, and can escape at any time? Looking at the redeemed space anomaly, Luauchi didn't hesitate and piloted the spaceship towards the anomaly's entrance. Detecting the spaceship's approach, the anomaly's entrance opened. Under the control of the docking program, the spaceship's direction was corrected to align with the anomaly's gravity. Then, it flew into the anomaly at a constant speed. Passing through ring after ring of floating metal hoops, the spaceship piloted by Luauchi steadily docked at the anomaly's internal spaceship port. Opening the cockpit door, Luauchi stepped off the spaceship. Upon arriving inside the anomaly, the space anomaly at this moment was not as lively as in the game, with a large number of travelers docked here. Now, there was only one life form present in the entire anomaly: Luauchi. At this time, the anomaly was like an unpowered computer. Aside from the port docking program and gravity system functioning normally, all other systems were silent. There was almost no other light source in the entire anomaly, nor the hum of operating machinery. Arriving at the platform near the port, there was a metallic spherical eye suspended within a transparent cube. As Luauchi approached, the metallic eye activated and opened its eye. The metallic eye emitted two parallel beams of light, scanning Luauchi's body. Anomaly owner identity authentication successful. Welcome, Anomaly Master. This was the anomaly's central hub intelligence. Of course, as the anomaly's hub, it did not possess its own conscious thought. It was merely a pre-set control program. After the hub system authenticated Luauchi's identity, the metallic eye then issued instructions. Space anomaly starting. Anomaly gravity system running. Normal. Anomaly warp system initializing. Normal. Anomaly life support system initializing. Race. Human. Anomaly deep space network connection initializing. Connection failed. Anomaly master. Initialize anomaly name. The anomaly's initialization program was continuously executing. At this point, the central system asked Luauchi if he wanted to initialize the anomaly's name. Initializing the name was like uploading the base's name when establishing a base. The current space anomaly could also be understood as a large base. Although it was not currently connected to the deep space network, the name setting still existed. Facing the hub intelligence's question, Luauchi pondered for a moment. Since he was initializing the anomaly's name, he might as well use the space anomaly's characteristics. A giant black spherical space station, just like an artificial planet. Since that's the case, initialize anomaly name, Black Star. Luauchi replied to the hub intelligence. Command received, initialization program executing. Initialization complete. Welcome, Master of Black Star. As the hub intelligence's voice fell, it also signified that the initialization process for the space anomaly, or rather, Black Star, was completely finished. The flowing light strips on the floor below the hub lit up with brilliant colors, then spread outwards like blood flowing through veins. The light illuminated the interior of Black Star, and the entire Black Star seemed to awaken. Ascension Technologies Space Headquarters, Black Star, was officially activated at this moment. Passing through the plaza where the central hub was located, Luauchi continued walking towards the interior of Black Star. Since this was a brand new space anomaly space station redeemed from the system, its internal structure was not entirely the same as in the game. There were no more rooms or interior structures here, but a larger platform plaza. Just like a fresh plot of land, waiting for Luauchi to create his ideal base upon it. However, although the original structure and buildings were gone, there was one thing Luauchi had specifically added and kept when redeeming the module. Arriving at the leftmost side of the central plaza, there was a giant double ring device here. The outer ring was continuously rotating counterclockwise while suspended, and the center of the inner ring was continuously emitting a blue, ethereal radiance outwards, as if the center of the ring was a vortex leading to a dreamlike space. This was the iconic space anomaly structure that Luauchi had specifically kept, the Interstellar Beacon. Chapter 112 Atlas. The Interstellar Beacon is a giant portal device located in the space anomaly, with functions similar to ordinary small personal portals. The difference is that it is larger and more stable. With this interstellar beacon portal, one can travel to any cosmic space for which the specific coordinates are known. Its large and stable characteristics also allow it to transport a wider variety of objects and life forms. Its performance far surpasses that of ordinary small portals. This is also one of the important reasons why Luauchi chose the space anomaly as his base. Luauchi came before the interstellar beacon. Watching the light emanating from the beacon's ring, Luauchi attempted to activate the interstellar beacon. The beacon was successfully activated, but there were no destination points on it that could be teleported to. And the beacon's system interface also displayed a warning message at this time. Open black lens bracket. Deep space network not connected. Cannot acquire interstellar coordinates for transport, close black lens bracket. Seeing such a prompt, Luauchi was not overly surprised. Although the beacon is massive in size and powerful in performance, it is merely an enhanced upgraded version of a personal portal. And this type of portal requires connection to the deep space network to serve as a transport bridge. As for achieving transport solely based on a set of coordinates, in deep space, only the planetary ruin teleporters located on planets can achieve this. The interstellar beacon being unusable was within Luauchi's expectations. The current Black Star is clearly unable to connect to the cyber network located on Earth. After all, the network coverage there is only around Earth, and even large amounts of cyber network space are still filled with the dangerous old net. The network space available for Earth humans to use is only that little bit, and Luauchi didn't expect that network to be of help when Ascension Technology explored the universe. However, solving the network problem is a crucial part of developing the universe. Not only do transport devices require a network, but expanding the sphere of influence into the interstellar realm in the future also requires network support. Fortunately, Luauchi had already thought of a solution. Having confirmed that the interstellar beacon was temporarily unusable, Luauchi did not linger here but continued walking deeper into the Black Star. Arriving at a platform in the depths, Luauchi brought up the system interface again. After a moment of hesitation, Luauchi still clicked the exchange button on a module. Open black lens bracket. Atlas prototype low-level replication, close black lens bracket, spoiler warning, open black lens bracket. Atlas, also known as the universe, is a mysterious object from deep space, with multiple forms of manifestation. It is the supercomputer in deep space that stores all data and simulates everything in the universe, the core of the deep space universe, or perhaps one could say Atlas is the universe. This module is a brand new, non-decaying low-level replica of the Atlas computer, usable for creating the deep space network, building network space, and possessing extremely powerful computing capabilities. Close black lens bracket. This is Luauchi's solution for cosmic network communication. The cosmic exploration technology he currently possesses all comes from deep space, so pairing it with the deep space network system is naturally the most suitable. And Atlas is the physical entity of the deep space network in deep space. As a supercomputer that can simulate everything in the universe, Atlas's computing power can be said to have reached an extremely terrifying level. Exchanging for Atlas can not only be used to build a deep space network space covering the universe but also help Ascension technology construct an unprecedented massive data fortress. Of course, the Atlas exchange by Luochi is just a weakened low-level version. The performance of the original Atlas computer is too terrifying. It is naturally impossible for Luochi to obtain it with his current financial resources. Exchanging for the space anomaly and the weakened version of Atlas has almost exhausted all of Luochi's accumulations over 3 months. However, Luochi believes that with the help of these two items, Ascension technology will enter a terrifying phase of rapid development. For Luochi, this is not a loss. Furthermore, although the Atlas Luochi exchanged for is a weakened version, it is already sufficient to build a deep space network covering a vast galactic range. As Luochi confirmed the exchange module, a giant translucent prismatic crystal appeared and floated in midair. Inside the crystal, a crimson dynamic sphere floated in the center, constantly fluctuating, as if breathing. Creator. The Atlas here had not yet aged, had not been replaced by a better machine, and had not been abandoned by its creator. It excitedly sent a signal to its creator, Luochi, and Luochi also responded to Atlas, telling it its mission. Receiving Luochi's command, Atlas began to operate. Soon, a deep space network space based on Atlas began to spread and deploy towards the surrounding star fields, using Black Star as the base point. Thus, a cosmic network was established. And at the same time the deep space network was successfully established. On the other side, on Earth, Ascension Technology Laboratory. Here was placed a base computer that Luochi had prepared early on, from the deep space universe. As the deep space network covered Earth, this base computer also detected the network signal. The base computer's signal receiver was activated and sent a connection request to the deep space network. The connection signal was smoothly received by Atlas. Luochi received feedback from Atlas, knowing that the base computer he left behind had played its role. He had Atlas connect the network in the base computer. The moment the base computer connected to the deep space network, Atlas acquired its location coordinates and network information. The base computer left behind by Luochi was currently connected to Ascension Technology's server network. Now, having detected Atlas's network signal and being connected to both networks simultaneously, it became the bridge between the deep space network and the Earth network. Meanwhile, the anomaly with the base computer also attracted the attention of Lao Wei and Lysandra. Lao Wei knew that Luochi had begun to explore space and had told him that this device was key to connecting to the cosmic network. But he hadn't told him too many details, so he just looked over curiously. And Lysandra, on the other hand, carried out the task Luochi assigned her before leaving Earth, using the network bridge built by the base computer to connect to the deep space network. In the network space, Lysandra arrived in this completely new area. As an artificial intelligence with self-awareness, Lysandra had her own thoughts. However, due to her calm and indifferent personality, it was usually very difficult to see her having emotional fluctuations. But the moment she entered the deep space network space, she experienced surprise for the first time. This was a vast network space she had never imagined, as if it had no end. Being in this space, Lysandra felt her own insignificance for the first time. Chapter 113 New base construction. Looking at the deep red sphere at the very center of this network space, constantly surging and fluctuating, Lysandra realized that it was the collective consciousness of this network space. As one of the top-tier artificial intelligences, whether in the project universe or in Cyberpunk, she was a top-tier existence. She was always the one who made others feel insignificant and fearful. This was the first time she had seen an existence more terrifying than herself. Of course, Lysandra and Atlas were not of the same kind. Lysandra is an artificial intelligence with high intelligence and thought, a mechanical life form. She is an existence that can break free from hardware constraints and exist in cyberspace, equivalent to a software. Atlas, on the other hand, is a supercomputer based on physical reality, a server and network carrier, equivalent to hardware. Therefore, although Atlas also possesses intelligence, his level of intelligence is not actually very high, at least compared to Lysandra. Thus, Lysandra was more just surprised by the existence of Atlas. Of course, this surprise was only for a brief moment. Lysandra's stable emotions quickly allowed her to return to normal. Having entered the deep space network, Lysandra also successfully contacted Luochi. Lysandra, prepare to transfer all the company's server data to Atlas. Luochi issued the command to Lysandra, and Lysandra immediately acted according to Luochi's instructions. With Lysandra's efficiency, and having been granted authorization by Atlas, she quickly moved all of Ascension Technologies' data to the new data fortress built by Atlas. The so-called data fortress is actually a three-dimensional representation in cyberspace of a physical computer server entity or cluster. For example, one of Arasaka's most core confidential data fortresses, Mikoshi, is constructed from servers located on orbital stations around Earth. The memory and performance of the computer entity affect the size and defense capabilities of the data fortress. Now, this new data fortress built upon Atlas, with the terrifying computer performance as a boost, has reached an unprecedentedly vast space. If the Earth network is equivalent to an ocean, and the data fortresses of major companies are islands in the ocean, then the deep space network built by Atlas is a vast sea of stars, and Ascension Technologies' data fortress is a giant star located at the center of the universe. The two are not on the same scale at all. As for the network defense capability of the data fortress, any network hacker or AI, as long as they want to invade by connecting to the deep space network, without Atlas granting permission, cannot even touch the data fortress's ice firewall, let alone break through it. Unless someone rushes to Black Star and physically connects to the Atlas server directly with a data knife, they might have a chance to touch Atlas's data fortress's ice. But that's just touching it. Thus, an Ascension Technology data fortress based on Atlas, the central core of the deep space network, was successfully built. As for the original company server, it was temporarily converted by Lysandra into a deep space network proxy server, used to connect the original company network equipment and the new data fortress. In this way, Ascension Technologies' data and system were silently moved to a new server, and the operation of the entire company remained normal, no different from before. The difference is that the entire company's network equipment, through the proxy server, can now connect to the deep space network. After completing the data migration, Luochi then issued another command to Lysandra. Earth. Night City Chungbei Industrial Zone. Ascension Technology Industrial Park. Marvin Factory. This is Ascension Technology's main robot factory, where a large number of Marvin robots are produced every day. Over these 3 months, Marvin robots have replaced a large amount of human labor, becoming Ascension Technology's primary workforce. Except for positions that Marvin cannot replace, almost all of Ascension Technology's production and manufacturing are maintained by Marvin robots. Of course, because Ascension Technology's scale was not large at first, it did not cause a large wave of unemployment. And perhaps these Night City citizens had long been accustomed to companies' layoff practices, so this did not cause much of a stir in Night City. The production of Marvin robots has never stopped, but in fact, the number of Marvin robots needed by Ascension Technology had long reached saturation. These newly produced Marvin robots were left in the factory, arranged in rows, waiting for the moment they would be activated. But even with a large surplus of Marvin robots left behind, Ascension Technology did not sell them externally. Because a new round of tasks and missions are waiting for these Marvin robots. After Ascension Technology successfully connected to the Deep Space Network, under Lysandra's control, these Marvin robots were activated simultaneously. Instantly, the sound of mechanical arms turning sounded at the same time, stacking up into a stunning sound wave, echoing throughout the warehouse. And on one side of this robot warehouse, a small circular portal device was emitting a blue light. This was a portal device that Luochi had specifically left in the warehouse, its purpose being to use this portal to send a large number of Marvin robots to Black Star to begin the base construction plan. And the moment it was connected to the network, this portal had entered a usable state. Receiving the command, the Marvin robot army began to pass through the portal device one by one in neat queues. On the other side, Black Star, interstellar beacon. The space in front of the beacon fluctuated for a moment, and the first Marvin robot to step into the portal appeared on Black Star. Subsequently, more and more Marvin robots passed through the portal, forming a square formation in the plaza in front of the beacon. The first batch of base builders is in place. These Marvin robots have all been installed with the highest level of construction skill upgrades and are fully capable of undertaking base construction work. And in the future, more robots will be transported to Black Star and dispatched from Black Star to various planets, establishing planetary bases and factories on the planets, and collecting planetary resources. Of course, these plans are still one important step away from realization. That is, building a large number of spacecraft. And the task that Luochi assigned to this batch of Marvin robots is to build a space dock on Black Star. The number of spacecraft needed to develop the universe is extremely large, and it is naturally impossible to achieve it all through module exchange. So Luochi had long prepared the technology expansion for spacecraft manufacturing, just waiting for the completion of the space dock to start mass production of spacecraft. As Luoki's command was issued, this batch of Marvin robots, standing ready, immediately took action. Beginning to build the first building of this vast black star base according to Luoki's plan, the space dock. Chapter 114, which poison after deploying the Marvin robots, the empty and silent black star base finally gained a hint of life. These Marvin robots were constantly taking out building materials from their spatial storage devices and constructing buildings in the designated areas. With the help of these Marvin robots, it's believed the Black Star base will be successfully built in no time. The construction of Black Star still requires some time, and Lysandra will help him oversee the construction progress of these Marvin robots and assign them new tasks. For the foreseeable future, Luoqi won't need to worry about matters in space. Moving to the beacon, Luoqi activated it, located the base computer in the Ascension Technology Laboratory, and activated the portal leading to the Ascension Technology Laboratory. The moment the portal activated, the scene before him shifted, and Luoqi was enveloped in a dreamlike green radiance. After traveling through the dreamlike green tunnel for a while, the strange scene gradually faded, and Luoqi's normal vision returned, appearing in the Ascension Technology Laboratory. It was also Luoqi's first time using a portal, and this brand new experience felt novel to him. And just as Luoqi successfully teleported back to the laboratory, a plump, unidentified object suddenly pounced on him. It was Rebecca, who had been waiting in the laboratory for a long time. "Are things in space finished?" Rebecca, who had clung to Luoqi, asked in his ear. Luoqi, who had just teleported back with a bewildered look, gazed at Rebecca in his arms, feeling a bit helpless. Everything is set up. I'll be staying here for a while." Naturally, Luoqi and Lucis' space trip was not kept a secret from Rebecca. Rebecca knew this was Lucis' wish, so she chose not to disturb their trip. But this wasn't without cost. Rebecca wouldn't completely indulge Lucy. During the period after they completed their trip, Rebecca would legally enjoy exclusive rights to Luoqi. It was clear that Rebecca wasn't very interested in space travel, so she was very satisfied with this arrangement. And Lucy also gained a dream trip. It could be said that both of them got the results they wanted. And Luoqi, caught in the vortex between the two, could naturally only abide by their agreement. What made Luoqi slightly awkward was that they weren't the only two in the laboratory. Lao Wei, the lab's native resident, was still watching. Fortunately, however, Rebecca knew Luoqi's personality and didn't choose to keep hanging on him, although she didn't really care about that. And Lao Wei was also very familiar with Rebecca's temperament. He didn't show any emotional change, merely smiling as he asked Luoqi about the space base. "How is it? Did things go smoothly up there? I assume you just used the portal device you mentioned." Facing Lao Wei's question, Luoqi nodded. "That's right, the portal worked smoothly. The Marvin robots from the factory have already been teleported to the space station base. With those Marvin robots, the base shouldn't take too long to build, but if you're interested, I could take you for a look first." "No need, I'll wait until it's completed before going over. I'm really looking forward to that day. As for you, you should hurry and spend time with Rebecca. She bothered me quite a bit while you were in space." Although Lao Wei was also very curious about what the space station base Luoqi mentioned was like, he wasn't an impatient person. Clearly, Rebecca next to Luoqi was much more impatient than him. Exactly, Rebecca echoed. "All right, Lao Wei." But just as Luoqi and Rebecca were preparing to leave the laboratory, Lysandra suddenly sent a message to Luoqi, causing him to pause. A large number of netrunners were attempting to hack into Ascension Technology's primary server. "What's wrong?" Rebecca noticed Luoqi's unusual behavior. "It seems someone wants to interrupt our date, Rebecca." Looking at the information provided by Lysandra, Luoqi saw a name on it that he really disliked. "Ha, who's so bold? If you ask me, changing the date theme to bloody slaughter is actually a good option, wouldn't you say, just like our first time on the motorcycle." Knowing that someone was trying to interrupt their date, Rebecca seemed undeterred. After all, the date she wanted wasn't necessarily romantic or cozy. As long as she was with Luoqi, whether it was fighting or anything else, it was all the same to her. Night City. Pacifica. This area was rated by NCPD as having the highest danger level in Night City. There were almost no tourists here, only rampant gangs and criminal activities. Of course, Pacifica was actually a key planned resort destination in Night City. Corporations planned to turn this place into a true paradise, offering unparalleled services, luxury hotels, and entertainment facilities for employees and tourists. But all of this was shattered during the Unification War several years ago. Due to fears that the new United States would invade Night City from Southern California, making Pacifica a battlefield. The corporations that invested in Pacifica all chose to withdraw from the project. And this was the starting point of Pacifica's decline. Large numbers of unfinished, abandoned buildings were filled with homeless people and gang members, making this place a haven for crime. Night City also attempted multiple times to restore normalcy to the area, but all ended in failure. Finally, even NCPD had no choice but to abandon this area, allowing it to become a truly ungoverned riot zone. Today, Pacifica has two main gangs. One is the Animals, who advocate for physical strength. The other is the Voodoo Boys, who lead the local Haitian community. The Voodoo Boys are known for their excellent netrunning abilities and strange voodoo religious characteristics. Almost all members of the Voodoo Boys are netrunners. They have always been dedicated to uncovering the secrets of the old net and releasing powerful ice behind the black wall. Evidently, unlike typical gangs, as a gang composed of netrunners, their main source of income is hacking into the databases and accounts of major corporations, obtaining their top secret data for blackmail or sale. They disregard the rules set by network surveillance and run rampant on the net without restraint. They can be said to be notorious throughout Night City. And recently, they have set their sights on a brand new target. That is Ascension Technology, which has been gaining significant momentum in Night City recently. This corporation, which inexplicably appeared in Night City, quickly became the focus of attention for major companies. It is believed that if its core secrets can be stolen, there will definitely be companies willing to pay a high price for it. Especially military technology, which has been entangled with Ascension Technology recently. Chapter 115 Hacker Invasion Body Grand Hotel. The headquarters of the Voodoo Gang. This magnificently decorated but abandoned hotel became the hideout for the Voodoo Gang. There are a large number of hacking equipment in the base, and the Voodoo Gang's hackers are constantly operating on them. Come and see what's inside this data fortress of Ascension Technology. Placide, the second in command of the Voodoo Gang, a black man in a black coat, is directing his hackers to go deep into the water and try to invade the data fortress of Ascension Technology. After receiving Placide's order, several hackers under his command sat on the hacker chairs without questioning and connected to the deep diving interface. In cyberspace, these Voodoo Gang hackers secretly approached the data fortress of Ascension Technology. An ice blocked their way. But facing the ice protection of this data fortress, these hackers are obviously full of confidence. The Voodoo Gang has launched attacks on the company's data fortress countless times. These hackers are carefully trained by the Voodoo Gang and are skilled in various network intrusion operations. They consider themselves professionals in this area. Except for the data fortresses of those top companies, ICE is too powerful and has a large number of hacker protections kept by the companies, making it impossible for them to attack. Other small companies can be considered their prey, and it is only a matter of time before their data fortress is breached. Without wasting any time, the hackers began trying to break through the ice. As they expected, the defense strength of the so-called data fortress of Ascension Technology, ICE, was not very high. They believed that it would not take long for them to invade the data fortress. These hackers began to work hard to break through this defense, and soon they successfully broke through the ice of Ascension Technology. Data worth 10,000 taels of gold was hidden behind the ice firewall. The Voodoo Gang hackers immediately entered the data fortress through the ice vulnerability that had just been breached. But just as they were about to steal the data from the Ascension Technology data fortress, but I found that there was nothing here and no data. Where is the data? A Voodoo Gang hacker asked in surprise. They must have come to the right place. This is the data fortress of Feixiong Technology. But why is there no data here? These Voodoo Gangs certainly won't find data here, because all the data had already been transferred by Lysandra. As for these hackers, they were able to break into the data fortress of Ascension Technology. This is entirely because Lysandra never did any defensive reinforcement on ICE, the company's data fortress, from beginning to end. In order to prevent other companies from discovering Lysandra's secret, Ascension Technologies has always had similar network defense capabilities as ordinary companies. Many hackers have successfully broken through Feixiong Technologies' ICE and entered the data fortress. However, the data in this data fortress are all non-core external data, and the real core data has always been protected by Lysandra in the deepest part. Originally, these Voodoo Gang hackers should have been able to obtain some non-core data by breaking into the data fortress. Unfortunately, they arrived just as Lysandra had completed the data transfer. Now Lysandra didn't even have time to disguise her data before they broke in. Today, in this data fortress, only streams of data flow through it to another deeper cyberspace. In the eyes of the Voodoo Gang hackers, they saw these data streams flow into a strange crimson wall and then disappear. This Crimson Wall has many similarities with the Black Wall they have been exploring and researching. They all seem to be products used to isolate two cyberspaces. The Voodoo Gang hackers, who were extremely sensitive to this, immediately noticed this strange phenomenon. What they don't know is that behind this Crimson Wall is the universe network built by Atlas. And just when they wanted to go and check out the Crimson Wall, without warning, Lysandra locked onto them. A huge virtual image of Lysandra appeared in front of these Voodoo Gang hackers. Lysandra noticed these voodoo hackers when they broke into the data fortress. Only after confirming that they were just hackers from the gang did Lysandra show her fangs. Faced with these intruders at inopportune times, Lysandra had no intention of letting them go. With a casual wave of her hand, Lysandra crushed the mind of a Voodoo Gang hacker. The companion was killed instantly nearby, and only then did the other hackers react. Looking at the huge Lysandra, the Voodoo Gang hacker who has been dealing with Blackwall and AI for many years immediately realized that the consciousness in front of him was a powerful AI, not a hacker. Combined with the strange Crimson Wall, these Voodoo Gang hackers realized that they seemed to have discovered some incredible secret. But at this moment, they didn't seem to care about any secrets. Because now they can't even save their lives. This unknown powerful AI can easily crush my subconscious mind. If I don't find a way to escape, I will die in this damn cyberspace. Without hesitation, these voodoo hackers immediately used all their skills to try to break free from Lysandra's control. But it was largely in vain. Hacker after hacker was ruthlessly eliminated by Lysandra. As they watched their companions die one by one, the remaining Voodoo Gang hackers became more and more desperate. But fortunately, at the most critical moment, the last remaining Voodoo Gang hacker, luckily, broke free from his restraints. He immediately fled from the data fortress at his fastest speed. No matter what, he doesn't want to die at the hands of this damn mysterious AI. In the data fortress, Lysandra looked at the fleeing Voodoo Gang hackers with an indifferent expression, as if she didn't care. Lucky little guy, run away, run as hard as you can. Show me where you bugs are hiding. With Lysandra's ability, it is naturally impossible for these little Karami hackers from the Voodoo Gang to really escape from Lysandra's clutches. Lysandra's goal is to see where the hacker gang that dares to attack Ascended technology is hiding in this corner of the network. Her target is not just these hackers. The Voodoo Gang hackers escaped from the data fortress of Ascension technology and returned to the Voodoo Gang's cyberspace without daring to stay for even a moment. Lysandra used the mark left on his body to track down the network address of the Voodoo Gang. What surprised Lysandra was that the mark she left behind lost its response after tracking it to a certain place. Out of curiosity, Lysandra set out for the cyberspace where the mark disappeared. I saw a network barrier here, separating two different network spaces. Apparently the hacker had traveled through here and blocked her from tracking. Chapter 116 Network Monitoring, interesting, an independent subnet of Poseidon, right? The barrier in front of Lysandra separates the Night City network from another independent network space. And behind this barrier is the cyberspace built by the Voodoo Gang, the subnet Poseidon. As a hacker gang, the Voodoo Gang is actually not weak. They built an independent Poseidon subnet covering the Taipingzhou area, isolating the Taipingzhou areas. Cyberspace from the Night City network. The Poseidon subnet is completely controlled and operated by the Voodoo Gang. They can control everything inside and monitor all information on the network. It can be said that by connecting to the Poseidon subnet, one will be completely exposed to the Voodoo Gang's vision. They know and see whatever you do. This Poseidon subnet is also an important reason why the Voodoo Gang has been able to evade network monitoring and tracking. As the name suggests, Cyberwatch is a global police organization whose main task is to maintain network security, at least that's what it's advertised to be. They control most city networks and maintain their security. Internet censorship naturally cannot tolerate this cyberspace sea god that is not under their control. In addition, network monitoring has another major task, which is to maintain the existence of the Black Wall. The Black Wall is a giant ice firewall that isolates usable networks from old networks filled with dangerous AI, protecting human network security. The Black Wall is built and maintained by network monitoring. Network monitoring prevents different hackers from destroying the Black Wall every day. The idea of the Voodoo Gang is to release the Black Wall. This makes them inevitably enemies. Due to these multiple reasons, internet censorship has never given up the hunt for Voodoo Gang members. The Voodoo Gang relied on their control over the Poseidon subnet to escape the pursuit of network surveillance time and time again. Obviously, the hacker who escaped from Lysandra relied on the Voodoo Gang's control over the Poseidon subnet to block her mark tracking. Of course, if Lysandra chooses to go deeper into the Poseidon subnet, she can still catch the hacker and the Voodoo Gang. But this would put them in the Voodoo Gang's home turf. Although Lysandra believed that the Voodoo Gang did not have the ability to trap her, the tenacious Voodoo Gang might be able to stop her for a while. If someone else chooses to invade Feixiong Technology's server at this time, they will be put in a passive situation. Lysandra always adheres to her most basic mission agreement to ensure the network security of Ascension Technology. So she did not take any risks, but chose to inform Rocky of the situation. As for the hacker who escaped, the mark that Lysandra left on him was more than just a matter of tracking. The moment he thinks he is rescued and exits deep dive, the mark will explode, completely burning his brain, and all the data he carries with him will be completely erased. Poseidon can block the information feedback sent back by the mark, but he cannot prevent the outbreak of the mark virus. The moment these hackers broke into the data fortress, their fate was sealed. Lysandra has no habit of leaving anyone alive. It's just a pity that we were unable to successfully trace the Voodoo Gang's network address. Ascension Technology. Loki looked at the information sent by Lysandra and raised his eyebrows slightly. These guys from the Voodoo Gang are not very honest. To be honest, Rocky has never liked these Voodoo Gang guys. They do not abide by the rules of the underworld, are good at deceiving, and like to take advantage of others. In the end, they abandon and kill the people they have taken advantage of as if wiping their footprints. Now that these Voodoo Gang members have come to trouble him, Rocky will naturally not let them go. Huh, Voodoo Gang. It's those guys from Typing Island, right? Let's go and kill them all. Rebecca on the side shouted excitedly. Rebecca's temper would never tolerate anyone daring to disturb her at this critical moment. Then let's go. Seeing Rebecca's enthusiasm, Rocky couldn't refuse. Although there are many ways that the Voodoo Gang can be easily dealt with. Even if Lysandra is given a little time, she can gradually disintegrate Poseidon and destroy the Voodoo Gang by spreading offensive programs into Poseidon that the Voodoo Gang cannot handle. But since Rebecca has such a strong grudge against the Voodoo Gang, it is better to use the most primitive physical means to eliminate them. After all, he hasn't fought with Rebecca for a long time. But just as the two were about to set off for Typing Island to beat up the Voodoo Gang, Lysandra brought them another piece of news. Internet monitoring came to our door. In the reception room, Rocky received the network monitoring agent who came to Feixiong Technology Company. Faced with Rebecca's murderous eyes, the agent still stated his purpose of visit. Mr. L, I think you should know that I am an agent from the internet monitoring. The agent showed Rocky his ID and continued. Our network monitoring has been tracking down the hacker gang Voodoo Gang located in Typing Island. This is an extremely dangerous gang. They wantonly destroy the network environment and steal company secrets for extortion and sale. You can't get to the point, can you? Why are you talking so much bullshit? In response to the agent's long speech, Rebecca picked up her little boots and kicked the chair where the agent was sitting, then pulled out a gun and pointed it at his head to tell him to stop talking nonsense. Rebecca's action frightened the network monitoring agent, and he immediately stopped what he was about to say when he was suddenly pointed at by a gun. Don't be afraid, she just has a bad temper, but you'd better keep it short. Seeing the agent in trouble, Rocky just smiled slightly. He probably had guessed what this guy was here for. He calmed down, and although Rebecca's temper made him uncomfortable, he was still in someone else's territory after all, so he had to endure it. Besides, he came here with business. The agent then spoke. Well, during our recent investigation into the Voodoo Gang, we discovered that they were planning to invade your company's data fortress and steal data. Our network monitoring team has had many experiences in dealing with the Voodoo Gang. We have the most professional network security team that can help your company resolve this network security crisis. All your company needs to do is order our latest network security solution package from Network Monitor, and you can enjoy the top network security services provided by Network Monitor. As Rocky expected, this agent was here to sell products. Yes, Cyberwatch is ostensibly a global policing organization, but they originated as a private cybersecurity company, and they still maintain their basic business to this day. Network monitoring has the world's most advanced network technology, and they have always worked very closely with companies. Provide network security solutions to companies, help companies deal with hostile network hackers, and sell network intelligence to companies. These are the business and revenue sources of network monitoring. Chapter 117 Voodoo Gang. Today there is no company or organization that is not for profit. All public resources and services you see and know have already been clearly priced. Therefore, Rocky was not surprised when faced with the promotion of services by cyber surveillance agents. I opened the package introduction information sent by the agent, which showed the services that network monitoring could provide to the company and the corresponding prices. Open black lens bracket. Network monitoring basic network security solution close black lens bracket open black lens bracket including the most basic data fortress ICE protection enhancement close black lens bracket open black lens bracket 5 million euros per year close black lens bracket the most basic cybersecurity solution, including ICE enhancement alone, would cost 5 million euros per year. In addition, there are advanced, top-level and other progressive packages. There are more and more tricks and the fees are getting more and more expensive. In general, it means you get how much service you pay for. The top-level package Rocky has seen so far costs 50 million euros per year. Of course, Rocky believes that this is not the limit of internet monitoring fees. These package services are most likely only aimed at small companies of city-level size like Feixiong Technology. If a large international company seeks cooperation with internet monitoring agencies, it will definitely be a deal worth sky-high prices. Rocky casually glanced over the package list given by the agent. He was not very interested in the services provided by network monitoring. It is obvious that Feixiong Technology does not need these security services of internet monitoring. To be honest, it's just average, Rocky commented. If these things cannot satisfy Feixiong Technology, our network monitoring actually has better customized services. Seeing this, the agent wanted to continue speaking, but was interrupted by Rocky. That's not what I meant. What I wanted to say is why the Internet Monitoring Center feels that Ascension Technology needs your network security services. I think the Internet Monitor should know that Ascension Technology and Arasaka are in a cooperative relationship. Why do you think I need the services from the Internet Monitor? Arasaka also has similar business. How do you know that our company's ICE is not contracted by Arasaka? Looking at the Internet Monitoring agent, Rocky questioned. Arasaka is a top global company with the widest range of business, including security services, banking, manufacturing, etc. Arasaka will not let go of any field where it has technology and can make profits, which naturally includes external contracting of network ICE services. Arasaka provides a lot of security services to Ascension Technology. Any normal person would think that Arasaka would also contract the construction and protection of ICE to Ascension Technology. The Internet Monitor is obviously aware of this, but it chose to come to Feixiong Technology at this time to sell its services. It is obvious that the Internet Monitor has tried to contact Ascension Technology's ICE and knows that Ascension Technology's ICE does not come from Arasaka. As for the purpose of the contact, it is unknown. The network monitoring agent clearly heard the questioning in Rocky's tone. He understood what Rocky meant, and he didn't plan to continue acting crazy. There was no change in his expression. He didn't seem to be embarrassed at all by being exposed. Instead, he explained with a slight smile. Mr. L, as you know, network monitoring needs to maintain the security of the entire cyberspace, so it is inevitable that it will touch upon the ICE of various companies in some special circumstances. However, we have absolutely no malicious intent and have never intended to illegally obtain company information. You can fully imagine the credibility of network monitoring. The agent spoke in a high-sounding manner about the so-called special circumstances and that there was no ill intention. But anyone with common sense knows that the credibility he talks about is a joke. Network monitors usually rely on their privileges and abilities to monitor the internet to obtain countless evidence and intelligence that is beneficial to them from the data fortresses of major companies. This is why internet censorship has such power. This is also the reason why internet monitoring is resisted by local companies in some regions, because their behavior of controlling the internet is seen as absurd and dark by many companies. Although it is undeniable that internet surveillance has made certain contributions to the construction and maintenance of the black wall. But in the same way, internet censorship itself is like a larger voodoo gang, except that they are positively packaged and officially authorized. In some ways, they are even more terrifying than the voodoo gang. Rocky, who was originally not very interested in network monitoring, became even more disgusted with them after the agent's promotion. That sounds nice, but forget it. I'm still not interested in your internet monitoring stuff. I'm wondering why you've fought the voodoo gang so many times but still can't get rid of them. I feel like your organization, the world's largest cybersecurity organization, is just average. Rocky continued. The voodoo gang is not like an ordinary gang. Currently, network monitoring has not been able to obtain the physical location of their subnet Poseidon, so there is still resistance in eliminating the voodoo gang. Since Mr. L is not satisfied with the solution we provided, I will not bother him anymore. However, our network monitoring is still the best choice for Feixiong Technology to solve this network security crisis. If Mr. L ever wants to change his mind, he can contact me at any time. Seeing that Rocky had no intention of cooperating with the network monitoring, the agent did not waste any more words. Network monitoring has already investigated Ascension Technology's ICE. Based on their experience, Ascension Technology is simply unable to prevent the invasion of the Voodoo Gang. It won't be long before they change their minds. What the agent didn't know was that the Voodoo Gang had already tried to invade Ascension Technology's data fortress, and their end was tragic. As for the Voodoo Gang, which the internet monitoring has never been able to deal with, in Rocky's eyes they are nothing more than lambs to be slaughtered. The network monitor does not know the physical location of the Poseidon server, but Rocky, who has done Voodoo Gang missions in the game, knows it very well. It's in the abandoned maglev tunnel leading to the secret room behind the Voodoo Gang church. The Voodoo Gang's most secret base is hidden there. It was there that they conducted their exploration of the Black Wall. And Poseidon's physical server is also in that base. Knowing the Voodoo Gang's lair, it becomes very easy to wipe out the gang. Don't bother with your network monitoring. We will handle the Voodoo Gang ourselves. After sending away the annoying internet monitoring agents, Rebecca was finally able to come to Typing Island with Rocky as she wished. Typing Island. Body Grand Hotel. Placide is commanding this invasion against Ascended Technology. At first, the hackers' connections were normal, and from the feedback, they had begun attacking Ascension Technology's ICE. The operation went smoothly, but just after they returned the information that they had successfully entered the data fortress, one of the hackers' brain was suddenly burned to charcoal. Chapter 118. Very angry Placide didn't have time to react. Hackers followed suit one after another and happily got the charcoal-grilled brain meal. It was as if these hackers had rashly invaded a high-intensity data fortress, only to be discovered by the enemy's top hackers and instantly wiped out. Placide had never faced such a massive operational failure. He hurriedly tried to salvage something, and just as he was panicking and trying to help the remaining hackers exit cyberspace, the only remaining Voodoo Gang hacker has disconnected the deep dive connection and escaped. Placide was glad that they still had one hacker alive, and was about to ask him what happened during the deep dive and why the data fortress of Ascension Technology suffered such a severe attack. The hacker who escaped immediately burst into violent sparks from the brain interface. He also could not escape. The fate of death. The impact of the hacker's death did not end there. Just before his brain was burned out, his network access pod uploaded a large number of offensive programs to the surrounding cyberspace. These were all carefully prepared by Lysandra in the mark she had laid. In an instant, the unsuspecting Voodoo Gang members around were all attacked. Placide was no exception. He covered his head in pain and howled. The malicious program was constantly eroding his nerves. Fortunately, due to the limited strength of the imprint and the triggering of a large-scale network attack, the performance of these programs has been weakened a lot. These Voodoo Gang members who have powerful hacking abilities will not be caught in one fell swoop. But the gift Lysandra left them also made them suffer. After a long time, many members of the Voodoo Gang base finally returned to normal. After clearing out the offensive programs and dealing with the mess, Placide cursed as he looked at the dead gang members. Fuck. Why would Ascension Technology have this kind of network technology? Impossible. Returning to his desk, he pounded the table vigorously. It was so easy for ICE to break through Ascension Technology, so why did an accident suddenly happen? Who is responsible, the Internet Police or Arasaka? Placide didn't quite understand. But obviously, he guessed wrong. Just when Placide was still thinking about using network technology to find out the truth, the one who is here to settle the score has already come to your door. Woohoo! The huge glass window in front of Placide's desk was kicked to pieces with an excited shout. The fighting lowly Rebecca with green twin ponytails broke into the Voodoo Gang's territory from the air without any warning. Behind Rebecca, Rocky slowly descended from the suspended Drosso. He passed through the gap kicked by Rebecca and came behind her. People from Ascension Technology. Placide was no stranger to these two men. Originally, Feixiong Technology didn't have many living employees, including the senior management. So when the two people suddenly broke in, he immediately recognized their identities. The Voodoo Gang had just invaded their data fortress, and now they were using this method to break into the Voodoo Gang's territory. It goes without saying that they are here to settle scores. Not wanting to be passive, Placide took the first step, with the network access warehouse running at full power, instantly locking onto the two men. Placide, who had just suffered a serious injury, ignored the burning pain of the neural interface and launched a network invasion on the two. Of course, what shocked Placide was that the two men's ICE easily blocked his hacking. Placide on this side was sweating profusely because he couldn't hack into Rocky's system. On the other side, Rocky was leisurely observing the famous black man of the voodoo gang. Rocky really disliked this guy when he was on the mission, so it was just right for him to come and send him to hell now. The networking abilities that Placid was so proud of were completely ineffective on Rocky and Rebecca. And with Plachita sounding the alarm and the huge noise made by the two of them, everyone in the entire voodoo gang base realized that there was an invasion and launched a cyber hack against the two invaders. But this time, the ice they faced was no longer the junk used for disguise in the Ascension technology server. Now Loki and Rebecca are equipped with the top-level protective ice from Lysandra, which naturally cannot be broken through by these voodoo gang guys in a short period of time. Many members of the voodoo gang soon realized that cyber attacks had no effect on the two men. Even though their faith in the Tao had been basically shattered, they still pulled out their guns under Placid's organization. It is naturally impossible for the voodoo gang to dominate the Pacific Island area solely by relying on hacking technology. Basic physical attack methods will still be available. Have fun, Rebecca. Seeing these voodoo gang guys finally pulling out their guns, Rocky touched Rebecca's head and signaled her to do whatever she wanted. Rebecca didn't hesitate, she was already full of anger. Rebecca kicked her calves and instantly turned into a shadow, rushing towards Placide. Before Placide could see Rebecca's movements clearly, she kicked her against the wall. Stones flew everywhere, and a crack was instantly created on the wall behind him. Placide couldn't help but spit out blood. Although the hacker is physically weak, as a native Haitian, Placide is relatively strong and her physique is not as thin as other hackers. But under the kick of this loli who was several times smaller than him, he felt as if all the bones in his body were broken. But Rebecca's actions went beyond that. After kicking Placide hard, Rebecca then flashed in front of Placide and stepped on his chin, kick him in the jaw and lock his head tightly. Huh, you're the second in command of this shitty voodoo gang, right? Do you know that I am very angry now? Rebecca took out the iron gall shotgun she had modified herself, pointed the gun at Placide's head and questioned him harshly. Strange syllables came out of Placide's mouth. His jaw was broken at this point, and Rebecca's foot was still firmly on his head, making it impossible for him to say anything. He could only let the blood in his mouth mixed with his teeth flow into his stomach, making a series of strange noises. At this time, other voodoo gang members around also reacted and shot at Rebecca. Bullets kept flying towards Rebecca, but she didn't make any dodging moves and still held on to Placide. The bullet hit Rebecca without deflection, splattering blood. But the scene that these voodoo gang members imagined of Rebecca being shot to death did not happen. Instead, amidst the hail of bullets and the bloody mist, Rebecca burst into crazy laughter. Ha 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 ha. Is that all? It's really regrettable. Chapter 119. Killing after being strengthened with serum and compound No. 5. Rebecca's physical strength is now far beyond what it was before. In addition, these voodoo gang hackers are physically weak, which results in the weapons they use being of relatively small power. The small caliber bullets hit Rebecca, but only barely broke through her defense, and couldn't even penetrate Rebecca. The bullets were continuously squeezed out by Rebecca's self-healing ability, and her injuries healed in an instant. The voodoo gang's firepower continued, but it never caused any substantial harm to Rebecca. On the contrary, Rebecca, who installed the pain editor, became more and more excited in the tickling of the hail of bullets. Hey, you guys, didn't you eat? Why are you hitting me so lightly? Since you can't kill me, it's my turn now, ha 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 tilde. Rebecca's voice sounded like a devil's whisper amid the din of gunfire. Placide, who was stepped on by Rebecca and unable to resist, had a look of fear in her eyes. He was closest to Rebecca and saw with his own eyes the bullet enter Rebecca's body. But she was still like a normal person, nothing happened to her. Instead, the injuries healed themselves in just a moment. This was completely beyond Placide's understanding, he had never seen such a monster. But at this moment, he had no way to resist except to stare with wide eyes and wait for the humanoid monster to kill him. Rebecca didn't keep Placide waiting for too long. After enjoying a barrage massage from the voodoo gang, Rebecca pulled the trigger without hesitation. The muzzle of the iron gall shotgun was pressed against Placide's head, and the bullet fired carried huge kinetic energy, blowing his head off in an instant. Placide was reduced to a headless corpse. The exploded head turned into pieces of flesh and splattered away, leaving only a pool of dirty stains on the wall behind it. The death of Placide also completely ignited the fear of the voodoo gang members. Cybermaniac, she is a madman, a monster. The voodoo gang members shouted in fear at this unkillable guy, but Rebecca would not let them go because of their fear. Ha 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 tilde. Speaking of iron courage, Rebecca rushed into the base like a wolf among sheep, laughing wildly and started slaughtering these hateful voodoo gangs. All the firearms used by Rebecca have now been replaced with heavy firepower. Just one shot can blow the enemy away and into pieces. If an ordinary person used this gun, the recoil alone would be enough to kill him. But Rebecca was having a lot of fun. Rebecca broke into the voodoo gang's base. On the other side, a large number of voodoo gang members outside the base also received the alarm and rushed to the battlefield. They ran into Rocky, who was waiting there. Faced with the invaders in front of them, they also drew their weapons without hesitation and fired wildly at Rocky. As they were connected to the Poseidon subnet, they were naturally very aware of what had just happened, including the fighting situation inside and the despair experienced by other voodoo gang members. They knew that there was an unkillable monster in the base at this moment. Fortunately, the enemy in front of me is not that monster. In that case, let's deal with this guy in front of us first. But what they didn't know was that the guy in front of them was even more terrifying than that monster lowly. Facing the hail of bullets, this guy also did not dodge at all. But the difference was that the bullet did not hit him, and there was no bleeding as imagined. Instead, all the bullets seemed to be sucked dry and fell powerlessly. This scene didn't seem as bloody and shocking as the one he had just faced with Rebecca. But it is more elegant and incredible. What's going on with these people? How is it possible? The voodoo gang members who came to support also encountered a scene that made them despair. Not only did their proud network capabilities have no effect on these two people, even guns and bullets could not cause any harm to them. The fear of death slowly gripped their hearts, and some members of the voodoo gang had already started to tremble in their legs, thinking about how to escape. Hey, can you please use more force? The firepower of your voodoo gang is not enough. If it doesn't work, go find the companies to get some heavy firepower. Oh, sorry, I forgot those companies don't accept ghost money. Feeling the energy accumulating in his body, Rocky shook his head. The firepower of the hacker gang voodoo gang is too weak, and the speed of energy absorption does not satisfy Rocky. It's like drinking water through a thin straw when you're thirsty. It's very uncomfortable. Fortunately, Rocky had already accumulated some energy, which should be more than enough to send away these voodoo gangs. Feeling the energy contained in his body, Rocky raised his right hand. Just like a Wukong with full of bravery value, Rocky concentrated the energy in his hands and released all the energy in the moment of punching. In an instant, a powerful energy wave rushed towards the direction where Rocky punched. The voodoo gang members who were affected were all thrown backwards as if they were hit by a speeding truck. It was as if they had been hit by Rocky's powerful punch at close range, with all their bones shattered and they were as dead as a puddle of mud. Within the range of this energy punch, everything was inevitably hit violently. Not only did the members of the voodoo gang suffer, but even the walls and pillars of the hotel's building exploded and collapsed under this punch. The entire area was reduced to ruins in an instant. The noise caused by this punch was quite loud. Haitian residents inside and outside the hotel felt a strong tremor. Fortunately, although the hotel was abandoned halfway, the entire building structure has been completed. So this tall hotel building luckily did not collapse under this punch. After dealing with the voodoo gang that came to support, Rocky stretched his muscles and felt that he had not even warmed up. I couldn't help but secretly curse that these voodoo gangs were just rubbish. At this time, on the other side, Rebecca quickly eliminated the voodoo gang members in the base. The voodoo gang is actually not very large, and compared to other gangs, their gang members are pitifully small. So there aren't many members left for the two of them to kill. Seeing that Rebecca was not very satisfied, Rocky touched her head. It's okay, they have another nest. The voodoo gang at the Batty Hotel was slaughtered, but Rocky did not find Bridget, the leader of the voodoo gang. If nothing unexpected happens, she should be hiding in the underground intercontinental maglev tunnel base at this moment. Naturally, Rocky will not let go of this base. From the moment he decided to take action against the voodoo gang, he had no intention of leaving any of them alive. Chapter 120 Peace Talks. Taiping Island Jingxin Bible Church. This is the church where Haitian residents from Taiping Island often gather. It is also the place where the voodoo gangs perform voodoo rituals. When the Batty Hotel was attacked by Rocky and his two companions, several voodoo gang members in the church received the news. The base has been invaded, hurry over to support us. Several voodoo gang hackers immediately stopped the ritual they were performing and headed for the Batty Hotel to provide support. But just as they were about to leave the church and rush to provide support, the communication voice in their minds held them back. Don't go to provide support. Inform the others in the church and return to the secret base underground. Immediately. Hurry. The voice of the voodoo gang leader, Bridget, came through the communication. She ordered these hackers not to interfere in the affairs of the Batty Hotel, but to gather at the secret base immediately. Bridget had just been dealing with Black Wall-related matters in the secret base, but she also received the message immediately when Rocky and his companions invaded the Batty Hotel. As the leader of the gang, she used the Poseidon subnet to clearly understand the battle situation on the other side. So she knew very well that the Voodoo gang was really in trouble this time. Judging from the images of Poseidon's return and the speed at which the Voodoo gang killed people, Bridget knew that no matter how many more people she sent over, they would just be sending them there. So she could only immediately gather the remaining strength and temporarily seek other ways to break through in this secret base. At least this secret base located in an abandoned underground intercontinental maglev tunnel is unknown to anyone except the Voodoo gang. Bridget believed that the people from Ascension Technology would not be able to find this place for the time being. After all, even the network monitors were unable to find this place during their long battle with the Voodoo gang. Bridget is still very confident about the Voodoo gang's secret base. Soon, the remaining Voodoo gang members gathered in this secret base. What's going on with these two people? And what happened in cyberspace? Why did they come to our door so quickly? And where did these guys' ice come from? Inside the base, a core member of the Voodoo gang asked a series of questions in an angry and fearful tone. They all saw the tragic situation at the Batty Hotel. Now the entire Voodoo gang is in a panic, fearing that this incident will be the beginning of the end of the Voodoo gang. But fortunately, as the leader, Bridget still remained calm. Calm down. What we need to do now is to solve this matter instead of asking these meaningless questions here. At this time, Bridget was operating the terminal, disconnecting the Poseidon subnet from the Batty Hotel to make their network independent and prevent the enemy from tracking them, while calming the emotions of the gang members. Then how can we solve this problem? If they find this place, none of us will be able to escape. Don't worry, they can't find this place, don't panic. Bridget comforted. But just when she was confidently saying that the people from Ascension Technology would not know about this place, an unsociable voice rang out in the base. As expected of the leader of the Voodoo gang, he can be so optimistic at a time like this. Bridget recognized the voice. He was not a member of any Voodoo gang. Instead, it came from the hateful man who killed a group of Voodoo gang members with one punch at the Batty Hotel. As the words fell, the cloaking devices on Rocky and Rebecca were deactivated, revealing their figures. After dealing with the Voodoo gang members at the Batty Hotel, Rocky found this place by following his memory. The Voodoo gang's self-proclaimed secret base was not a secret at all in Rocky's eyes. After all, the V he once controlled was brought all the way here by Bridget, and he had a deep impression of it. Faced with the sudden appearance of Rocky and Rebecca, the Voodoo gang members in the base immediately raised their guns and were on guard. But Bridget waved them down, because she knew that using these weapons against these two people would be completely useless. Their presence here means either a peaceful resolution or their death. Ascension Technology, Elle and Rebecca, right? I think I'm not mistaken. Let me introduce myself. I am Bridget, the leader of the Voodoo gang. Bridget introduced herself calmly. Then he continued. The Voodoo gang accidentally invaded the data fortress of Ascension Technology, so you came to our door. I understand why you do this. It's normal that every wrong has its perpetrator and every debt has its creditor. But I think this matter may not need to be so absolute. Is there any peaceful way to resolve the dispute between us? Rocky didn't expect that Bridget could remain so calm after the enemy found her lair, and he couldn't help but look up to her. Tell me about it. Rocky, somewhat curious, motioned for her to continue. The Voodoo gang did not gain any data from the invasion of your company, but we also paid the price of many of our members' lives. I hope this matter can be settled here. Besides that, our Voodoo gang can help you with a few things at Ascension Technology for free as a way of expressing our apologies. I believe you should understand the network capabilities of our Voodoo gang. Many of the dirty work that your company is not convenient to do can be handed over to the Voodoo gang. I believe you can get a satisfactory result. Isn't a gang that can help you do things more valuable than a dead gang? At Rocky's signal, Bridget spoke up and put forward conditions that she thought were reasonable. When faced with the peace terms proposed by Bridget, Rocky first smiled slightly, but just when Bridget thought the peace talks were done, but Rocky uttered words that made her despair. Your offer is very tempting, but I refuse. Bridget's words were very tempting. She first said that the Voodoo gang did not steal the data of Ascension Technology, and then said that they could help Ascension Technology. She kept a very humble attitude and what she said made sense. Every company has dirty work that is inconvenient to do themselves, and at this time they will use the gangs or mercenaries in Night City. Therefore, The existence of these gangs is not a bad thing for the company, because they rarely dare to provoke them, and can help them at critical moments. If it were an ordinary company, it might not kill all the enemies, but choose to keep a helper who can be of benefit to itself. But unfortunately, the Voodoo Gang encountered Ascension technology. Ascension technology does not need the Voodoo Gang to help it. As for the compensation for this invasion, Rocky will go to the Voodoo Gang's server in person to get it.